G'day guys, welcome to Down Under Sigmar. You're here with Santa Coach. I like that. I actually added that just before we went live. Welcome, episode 2 of a new season. Clint has kept his job. He is on probation. Clint, welcome back. Hello, and we'll get back into the formalities and we'll chat general stuff. And we've got a lot of stuff going on because we in Australia, if you haven't heard, we had our very first match play 2-day tournament. So a bit of a rise and return of match play. We've had tickets go on sales at other events. Clint, I know you got something coming up pretty soon. We've got lots going on. We've got lots to talk about. Lots of cool GW releases as well, and lots to talk about from a gaming perspective. And Matt, the mayor, the master, the kebab legend himself, Tyrrell. I should put that photo in my stream. And Matt's going to be our guest today. Matt, g'day. How are you? Welcome.
Yeah, I'm good. On the eggnogs for Christmas. Cheers.
Cheers to the eggnog, guys. So this is the Christmas episode. I don't know how it turns into the Christmas episode. We got talking about eggnog in our group chat in preparation for the show, and I decided to get all Christmassy stuff. So
you just took it that step further. We were like, we'll have some eggnog while we're streaming, and then you went, I'm going to go full Santa Christmas. It's a good start.
Look,
bells on his nipples.
I do have bells. So, guys, if you do hear if you hear that, that means that I'm moving too much, and I probably will have to take my jumper off, or this will turn into an OnlyFans launch. I joke about this a lot. I feel like we're getting to a cusp where the joke actually might turn real.
No,
please don't.
Never, ever, ever.
You say
Please
that.
Don't.
You say that, but maybe the chat's going to go, yeah, we want OnlyFans, coach. That's the only content we want.
They just want to see you fail.
They want to see me fail. And g'day everyone in the chat as well. We got a whole bunch of cool people hanging out. We got Paul, Jonathan, Wargaming Dad, Elron. We got Elron, not Hubbard, Enron. And we got Samuel. Cool. We got a lot of cool people in the chat, and we are talking all things, I guess. Like, what are we talking about? We got a lot going on, Clint.
Everything. We're talking everything from hobby to this event that you both went to, GW releases, all the things.
Matt, what are we going to talk about?
Age of Sigmar, gaming, having fun, catching up with mates, everything, whatever we can.
What are you fishing for, Anthony? Are you fishing for the Everwinter event? Is that what you're fishing for?
I'm not fishing. I'm trying to get you guys involved in the conversation and get me out of OnlyFans discussion. That's what I'm trying to do.
He wants us to pull him out of that hole that he keeps digging, Matt. That's what it is.
Just digging that hole. So for anyone who doesn't know Matt, Matt, you have been on a guest on this channel a number of times. You are the current reigning Australian master. You also do have your own YouTube channel, but maybe for anyone who doesn't know who you are, Matt, do you want to give us a quick introduction? And people need to know that you are the master and the kebab legend.
Yeah, so I won the Masters obviously 12 months ago. Actually, I had a thing on my phone just 2 days ago for the memories 12 months ago. So yeah, that was an exciting time, unexpected, but yeah, that was good. And then just been around. I've been playing now for 4 or 5 years. Sort of started just before AOS and just been smashing out AOS ever since. Dabbled in a bit of 40k, but I just don't like it. So just Age of Sigmar for me, and yeah, just like to play fun armies now. After winning Masters, I've been really having a lot of fun playing with my Nighthaunt and just trying to make some lesser army. Try and make it good and see how that goes. So yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell. If you don't know me by now, don't worry about knowing me.
Cool.
I don't know what do you want me to say. Yeah.
I mean, the show's worldwide. As if there are many people who don't know who you are, Matt. I know you are the mayor. You are the master, but people don't know who you are sometimes. So
and on the Clint and I now, we're both on the ETC team. I'm the captain. We just recently voted Clint in as we had a dropout. So yeah, exciting times ahead if that all goes ahead, but I'm not too confident just yet. But we'll plan for it, and if it does go ahead, we'll be ready to go.
Well, there's another thing that's happened as well over the last month. I don't think we had that news, Clint, that the Australian ETC or the European Team Championship, for anyone who doesn't know what the ETC is, so you guys named a team, was devoted for, and that's something that happens at the mid to late at the obviously this
August.
year got cancelled, but yeah, August, it happens next year.
Hopefully, all things going well. So basically, yeah, the World Cup of Warhammer, which obviously got cancelled this year for various reasons.
And this is the first time Australia's entering, technically. I mean, they were entered this year, obviously got cancelled, but for AOS, yeah, we have a long history of fantasy, have a long history of 40K. Age of Sigmar, we've never had representation from an Australian point of view. So who is it? So it's Matt, it's Clint, it's
Michael Clark, who else we got?
Liam.
Chuck. Yeah, Liam. Names just put me on the spot all the time.
Matt,
Bigwood.
Liam, Chuck, Michael Clark, Andrew Bigwood. Yeah, and myself. So
cool. And maybe just, we'll touch on this maybe briefly. How does it all work? Like, do you guys just say, hey, I'm going to rock up with my Legions of Nagash army and I just go over to wherever it is in Europe and play? Like, what's the deal for anyone who doesn't know much about the ETC?
So with the ETC, it's a team's obviously a team's competition. So you're not going to be going with a list that you would normally take to a normal tournament, which is what you'd call an all-rounder list that can normally deal with all sorts of threats that are thrown at you. You might have one bad matchup, but with ETC, you kind of take one very strong list that can beat maybe a third of other armies very easily, like very good matchups, and then obviously other matchups you still go okay, but yeah, so it's not just you pick your list and then you go with it. We talk about lists, and also you can't double up either. So it's one of those tournaments where, say, Clint and myself, we couldn't both take Ideneth Eels, for example. We couldn't just take the same list. So you got to take different units, different war scrolls from your other teammates, which just means that, yeah, you're not going to a tournament with 5 players playing Ideneth or whatever. So yeah, it's a lot more involved. We've got a group chat. We chat about tactics and who plays what and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, it's been a bit quiet the last couple of months because no one's playing, understandably. But as things turn around now, hopefully going forward, we'll see some more tournaments, more people being able to get out to their local stores and have a game, and they'll be able to start practicing their lists and see what they like. So yeah, it's a lot different, obviously, to a normal tournament, but yeah, we're getting around it. And then when the ETC actually starts, it's a lot different too. You have a matchup process each game where the 2 captains will put forward an opponent, and you got to match up. So it is very strategic. Like the actual game itself is the least strategic part of the whole process, to be honest. It's more everything else, like just going there, building lists, and then all the matchups. And so we literally have to study everyone else's armies and have pretty much a spreadsheet for each opponent where we know our strengths and weaknesses with matchups going into each game. So yeah, it's very involved. I think it's 6 games over 3 days or something. So you only do like 2 games a day, but there's like 4 hours allocated for each game. That includes your matchups and all that sort of stuff. So yes, very different, something I'm not used to and slowly coming around to. And I'm sure most of the other guys on the team, bar Chuck, who's been there before, most of us don't really know what's going on either, but we're all pretty adept players and should do fine.
That's right. You're Stephen Bradbury, the event. Clint, how are you feeling about ETC at the moment?
Oh, look, super excited. It's been on my Warhammer bucket list for, probably 7 or 8 years at this point, ever since I found out it was a thing. So to actually get selected was pretty amazing, and I'm just crossing fingers and toes and everything to make sure to hope that it happens next year as planned.
No, that's awesome. And Clint knows that I may or may not be applying for the coach role in 2022. Maybe. It would be meta if the coach becomes the coach. So
that's the only reason you're doing it, right?
It really is. It's either that or Adepticon, and I'd love to go back to Adepticon. So either it's coaching coach or it's Adepticon, and we'll see how we go. But very, very exciting nonetheless. Fingers crossed. Adepticon. Well, of course, I want Adepticon to happen, but I want the Adepticon to happen. But ETC, absolutely, I hope it happens, and we do it very safely. I know in my community in Sydney, we're actually just lifting our restrictions a little more. I've got a little one-day event that I'm running next Sunday, and we're lifting it, so it's going to be one person by 2 square feet, where it used to be 4. So who knows? Fingers crossed by the end of next year, we're all good. We're all rolling dice. We're all maybe shaking hands in a new COVID safe world. But hey, let's skip COVID. I think we've had enough of that talk for almost like 9 months now. What have you guys been up to? Have you guys been doing any hobby lately? Have you guys been up to anything in particular? I might start with the mayor. I got some photos from you, mate. What have you been working on?
Yeah, so obviously this whole year's been pretty shit. It's been very hard to motivate myself, but with the tournament on the weekend, finally having a tournament, you know what it's like. As soon as you got a tournament and you got stuff to paint, it's you just get in, crack in, and do it. In saying that, I knew I needed these painted probably about 3 months ago, and only started like last week. So always the one to leave the homework till the last minute. So I went through. I had to paint. Obviously, they're 2 units of 4 Mirmore Banshees and 2 units of 10 Dread Scythe Harridans and the famous Kevin the Carnwraith. So I got those.
I was going to say the chat has called out and said Kevin has appeared. I have seen this discussion happening in Discord. Kevin what's the deal? What's Kevin the Canwraith? By the way, we're showing photos if you're watching this on the podcast. We have Kevin the Canwraith.
So he is. Look, I don't know. I named him as Kevin is kind of like just a mediocre name, like just a everyday Joe Blow. So that's why I named him Kevin the Carnwraith. But he has this artifact and weapon that on a 6 to hit does 2 plus D3 mortal wounds. So he gets to reroll hits. So you charge him into units of 10 or something. He just wipes them out, and your opponent's like, "What? That's a 60 point. Like he's worth 60 points." So yeah, he's like, yeah, Kevin the Carnwraith, and his wife Karen the Banshee. She's in the list too. So yeah, everyone knows what a Karen is. And so yeah, he's like the Kevin that has to. He gets told what to do at home. He does all the dishes, the washing, the ironing. He does everything. Karen screams at him like a banshee the whole time. So that's the story there behind Kevin the Carnwraith. He's a lot of fun. I have so much fun with him. I always put him in the underworlds, drop him down 9 inches away from one of my opponents, like something they don't want to lose, obviously, and I get right behind those that 9-inch dice roll, and I always have CP ready to re-roll it. I'm always re-rolling it, even if I've got something more important to roll. So I just have a lot of fun with him, man, and the whole army. I'm having so much fun with Nighthaunt right now. It's just it's really good fun. You can turn up to your opponent. You turn up to the table, and your opponent sees that you're playing Nighthaunt, and they're like, "Oh, you're not playing the current filth, the meta," and they think, "Oh, well, they're going to have a good time. They're going to have a good game," and it's just a fun army. I really enjoy it. So, yeah, I hope to play it a lot more in the future, and I'm really enjoying trying to take the army to the next level and try and do well with it, to prove a lot of people that you can do well with them. So yeah, that's pretty much the story behind all that.
It's got some tools as well. I think anyone who writes off Nighthaunt, it's got the movement, it's got the Deathless Save, it's got the Rend, so it's got the Mortal Wounds, it's got a whole bunch of things. So I think if you are a Nighthaunt player, it's
the big
time
thing
to get
with
back on
them
the table.
Like a lot of current armies and new release armies, they're pointed in a way that like their points costs allow for Rend. Like a lot of the new stuff has Rend and
Gargants, man. A lot of Gargants damage comes from Rend.
Exactly. So the fact that your Nighthaunt's just ignoring that flat out Rend, it's just they're a lot better in the current meta than when they were first released. Because when they were first released, there wasn't a lot of Rend around, so units were pointed accordingly. And but you had a lot of obviously you had a lot more. What would you say? Horde armies, I guess, with a lot more attacks, which when Rend doesn't matter then. It's more weight of numbers, so they just kill you. But yeah, in the current meta, I feel they're quite good. They're quite competitive still. So yeah, they're a lot of fun.
And if you're in Australia, we've got Mortal Realms magazine. So you're probably going to have a whole bunch of cheap Nighthaunt to play with. I know, Clint, you've been going pretty crazy with buying up this magazine, but not for you.
No, for my kids, actually. So I that said, I did buy the first issue quite a few times for me to get some chain rasps. And every now and then I buy an issue for me and an issue for the kids. But my son has actually been doing Nighthaunt. So he was working on the Dreadblade Harrows last night. So, yeah. And my daughter's doing Stormcast. They're in a tub there, actually. So, yeah. Oh, my stuff's on the screen.
Yeah, that was me introducing you into discussing. Like that was me trying to open a space for you, Clint. I know we're still got a working relationship here. You
asked me a question, I answered the question.
Yeah, but then there's like a subtle hint here. So I've got Clint's hobby up, guys, for anyone who's on the podcast. So, Clint, what have you been working on?
I pretty much since the last episode, I've painted most of my Bone Reaper's army. I know I'd started last time, and I managed to smash through as much of it as I can. As you can see, I've been working on the Bone Tithe Nexus. I did that on stream this week. It's just about done. I just have to do the glow effects, and the tufts turned up today for the rest of the bases. So pretty much I'll have that finished by the end of the weekend.
What tufts are you using?
The Gamer Grass Winter Tufts, and then some snow and stuff sort of embedded in the tufts. Normally my local store gets them, but I've been waiting a couple of weeks now, and I just had to order them. I'm like, I literally have this entire 2,000 points nearly finished, just waiting for tufts. So I just had to order them, and yeah. And then there's also another wonderful Manfred model there that turned up yesterday.
Can I ask you a question? How hard was it to cut the shrink plastic off? The shrink wrap?
I still haven't.
Oh, you haven't?
No. Yeah, because it's hard to tell in that picture, but it is shrink wrapped. Basically, I was going to do a Manfred for the Call to Glory charity raffle for next year, but I can't find detail paint at the moment, so that plan is not going to happen. So, but I did actually want to paint this model again, and because I painted one probably about 6 or 7 years ago. And it's my favorite miniature that I think I've ever painted. I spent time on it. So I'd love to paint one again and like hold the two side by side and see how much I've improved in, 6 years.
Is that metal?
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yep.
Such a cool looking model. I'd like to have one as a Vampire Lord on Steed.
Yeah. It is my favorite ever G-Dub model.
What's the saying? Manfred did nothing wrong.
Manfred did nothing wrong. I'm not wearing the shirt tonight. I'm wearing the Heralds Nighthaunt Pac-Man shirt tonight. So
look at you with all your Herald stuff. Herald's hat, Herald's shirt.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt's got one of these shirts.
I do. I should have wore it.
I've got it as well. I think I was your first purchase.
Possibly. I don't know. We gave some out though. So
I legitimately purchased it.
I was the first to get one.
Well done.
I was a sucker. How's the eggnog, by the way, gents? I've got my Bundaberg eggnog that I've added extra Bundaberg in.
That's disgusting. Don't even talk about it.
It's just so wrong.
I've got Captain Morgan's spice rum in mine.
I'm just going plain. I don't need a drink this evening, but Kraken in it is always good.
Yeah. All right. I thought at least with it being a Bundy one, I would do Bundy in it. So what have I been up to? Don't judge Bundy, man.
What
Don't
have you been up
Bundy.
to, Anthony Magro?
I've done nothing.
Yeah.
This week I have done literally nothing. I've played Assassin's Creed all week and it's been glorious. I've just played like 5 hours every day, every night, just smashing out Assassin's Creed.
Isn't that what you do after every tournament though? You just there's no hobby, there's nothing. Like you just for like a couple of weeks, I reckon.
Yeah, it depends on it's hard because like as you know when tournament season's up and running, you've normally got a tournament every month, every couple of weeks. You've got something you're constantly on the hamster wheel. But as our hamster wheel's kind of just starting up, you're right. You paint an army up. I've got my 2K of Gargants, so I think this month I've been mostly focused on painting up my Sons of Bahamut, however you want to pronounce it. I had to get that up to a what?
Behemoth.
BMAT. The Sons, man, the SOBs, the original and the best SOBs. I'm going to cop something for that. So I've been painting up my Sons. I had 8 models to paint. It was the craziest 8 models I've ever had to paint, despite it sounding like only 8 models. The Sons are crazy detailed. There's some really cool stuff going on there. Painting the net, there's the Kraken Eater with his big net alone is a massive pain in the ass. There's just so much detail, and I'm getting so excited I'm moving around with my bells.
That's your nipples getting erect, mate, with the bells on them.
So
apologies to the children.
When you hear it gong, you know where that bell is.
So let me, so I painted up my Sons of Bahamut, and getting a couple of practice games in, which was really, really cool. But at the same time, I was working on my Armies on Parade board. So the first Armies on Parade I've ever entered. I've never entered. It's normally at a time where it's just after Sydney GT. So normally it will take a couple of weeks after Sydney GT. So for me, getting up a display board has never been something I could do. So this year with CanCon being cancelled, I said, stuff it. I'm going to enter into Armies on Parade. I'll bring up some photos, I think, in the tournament as well. You guys can see what that looks like. But then funnily enough, I had a little story. On Saturday, I started a Daughters of Cain army because I wanted that to be CanCon 22. Because now my display board's over. I've got some display board ideas. I've got daughters. The Sunday, I won the Lucky Door prize and I walked away with this Lumineth box. So in the span of a weekend, I had to explain to my wife how this all came about. But more importantly, I became an elf player. So I'm really confused. I'm so confused and I don't know what to do because I've now got 2 new armies. I don't know if I should give away the Lumineth box, if I should start it. Should I just keep it for a rainy day when maybe a Tyrion comes?
Well, knowing you're a filth player, so go the Daughters of Cain.
Oh yeah, I'm always chasing the meta with my Legions of Nagash and my
your grots.
My grots, yeah.
Man, and your giants.
Those 5-0 giants, those 5-0 grots.
So we're looking at the least filth, then you might have to go Lumineth, I think.
You reckon? I'm going to Witch Elf, and I've got a really cool idea for my display board. So I'm not going down the snake meta. It was a great weekend, but then I had to explain to my wife, I'm like, look, I'm coming back with a Daughters army that was literally half price. I got the army half price or more than half price, which is why I bought it on the spot.
So did you tell her how much it was, or you just said it was half price?
I did because I said to my wife, because I only days before this I started putting together my Christmas wish list, and I actually had Witch Elves, I had the Underworld's Warband, and I had a Cauldron of Blood. I had that in my Christmas list, and basically while I was in Canberra, I met up with a player. while I was browsing for some product, and they said, hey, we just happened to be there on the Friday, just a random player. He's like, hey, I can bring some models in. I've got some art. There was no witch elves on the shelf, but like, hey, I've got some witch elves. I'll bring them in on Saturday. If you want them, we'll do a deal. It was like literally 50%, maybe even almost close to 60% off. And I got the start collecting box as well as all this stuff here. So, and I'm going to trade the Doomfire Warlocks to a player who wants them, and he's going to buy the Daughters of Cain Underworld's Warband for me. So, I think I come out pretty well, considering it would have cost me the same amount as buying 3 boxes. I paid about the same price as buying 3 boxes of Witch Elves. So, so I walked away with a free start collecting box and free Doomfire Warlocks. So
that guy will be watching this stream going, oh shit, I really done my ass on that.
No, the player knew he was giving it away, but he's like, look, I want a quick sale. Maybe got it off the back of a truck or something. So I just told the wife to buy me Morathi instead. So I thought get Morathi and get something else. Yeah, cool. And the Canite Warband. I'm going to buy the Canite. That's what also on the Christmas list. The Canite Warband and Morathi.
Nice.
Fair enough. Yeah, you're allowed to put hobby on your Christmas list.
Yeah, well, you're not allowed to?
No, I'm not. I got told that I have to pick non-hobby related products for my Christmas gift this year. So
this is probably my first year I haven't wanted any hobby for Christmas, but yeah, I've been told the same. If I put it on there, I'm not getting any. I've got enough.
I think it probably stems from the fact that we have everything we want and we just go buy it anyway, and we both have copious amounts. So
it's very true. It's very
nothing to do with your whip noises. So.
And speaking of some hobby as well, I was looking through the community site for Australia. I was looking more community site. Some of the photos coming up this week, and it was really cool to see some of the hobby that's going on. It looks like there's a lot of Daughters love, a lot of Slaanesh love, a lot of Gargant love happening at the moment. It was really cool to see Ben Chung as well, who doing IDK as well. I think the Broken Realms has really lit a fire up in the Dark Elf player community. You've seen it in Stormcast and maybe some of the Liberators coming back on the table. You're starting to see some of these different builds and armies that maybe haven't seen the table for a while. So very, very cool. Shadow and Pain has certainly activated the Slaanesh and the Daughters players. Are you seeing that in your communities as well, Clint and Matt? Or what are you guys seeing in your spaces?
You go first, Matt.
Yeah, look, to be honest, our space has been very quiet. There's been no hobby progress at all. Maybe a couple of bits and pieces, but to be honest, though, our local meta, we don't chase the meta. We're kind of we just have our own army and we just stick to it, and always have locally. But we're a lot different to most other regions. That
damn Deke is always chasing the meta there. He's just
but he's a GW employee. They've got a new model each week, haven't they? A new army. So we're being very quiet, man. So how about you, Clint?
Look, I know that there's been a bunch of the Shadow and Pain and the other Broken Realms box sets bought, but based on what people are playing and what people are bringing, I don't think there's been too much of a change. Like, everyone was sort of halfway through a hobby, like a project, and so they're just kind of kicking it through. Ask me again in 3 months' time, and who knows? Like, we'll have a couple more Broken Realms books, and people will have like started on those new projects.
I've seen a lot of people pick up Broken Realms. I've got in front of me. I'm doing a review tomorrow with IDK. I'm doing an IDK video tomorrow, and I see a lot of people being activated. They haven't bought the army. They're starting to build the army, and I think when I look at Broken Realms and Clint, when we caught up last month, we were only kind of scratching the surface and making tinfoil hat predictions, but just looking at the depth of knowledge from the Stormcast, the IDK, the Daughters of Cain, the Cities of Sigmar, the Slaves to Darkness, I'm not really a big fan, as you might have noticed on the Warhammer Weekly stream. Not for me, but hey, if you want to run Chariots, I think it's started to build out people's imaginations, and I think, who knows, maybe a lot of these armies are going to find the table early next year maybe be on people's Christmas lists, or they're waiting to see what the next Broken Realms is going to look like. Now that we've seen, I guess maybe the transition here is Sigvald.
Not that one. A better one. There we are.
That teaches me for just hitting the scroll button like Sigvald. You're like,
yay! A model that's 13 years old. Go.
This is crazy. This model is pretty crazy in comparison to the old Sigvald, and like you just look at it, it's just chalk and cheese, right? I think some people are hit and miss with the horns. I think some people like the no horn version, but hey, to get yourself some clippers, clip those horns off, and you have Sigvald 2.0.
So for those that don't know, who is Sigvald?
So Sigvald the Magnificent was a Slaanesh hero from the world that was, and he personified the aspect of Slaanesh, the excess to perfection side of things. So his shield was a mirror, and he was always perfect, and he was that was his thing. A great way to look at Slaanesh in a different way than what people sort of meme it as.
Titties. More than titties.
Yeah, exactly. Slaanesh is much more than that. So he was a great way of doing that. And so unfortunately he met his end in the end times, basically being pissed on by the Troll King.
Yeah.
Essentially, which was fairly inglorious defeat. But I saw a tweet from Phil Kelly saying that they had hid a little Easter egg about Sigvald in one of the Shadespire books years ago, and it's finally coming to fruition. So it's good to see him come back.
By the way, people are giving me shit for my dress, by the way. People are just asking why I've come up as an elf. I'm getting a whole bunch of shit from you guys. So thanks for that.
Like a garden gnome.
Garden gnome, elf, what's going on with the fancy dress competition? Sheesh, I dress up. I put a bit of effort in, try to make this fun for you guys, and you just rain on my parade.
No, they are having fun. They're having fun picking on you.
At your expense.
I'm going to set up an OnlyFans and just do that for 3 minutes.
Don't. Please stop talking about OnlyFans.
I will say, Clint, that what I really like about this model is that fantasy traditionally has always focused on the sex side of Slaanesh, and I've always been a little bit envious of the 40k, because 40k I think has a more of a holistic view on Slaanesh. The Noise Marines, for example. Clint's already.
I'm disagreeing with you.
Are you about to actually me?
I am about to actually you. Sorry.
All right,
right out of the gate.
Convince me why.
If you read any of there's a bunch of Gotrek and Felix stories where they deal with Slaanesh cults and things like that, and some of them have taken food to excess. They're quite large and mutated that way, but they just can't help eating. There's a lot more aspects than just the sex thing. The sex thing is what gets memed a lot and what people talk about, but there's a lot more depth to the background on Slaanesh.
And now I'm going to actually you now. Actually, let me finish my sentence before you actually me. I was going to talk about the models on the tabletop. I don't think we've seen that lore translate onto the tabletop as well in fantasy, whether it's Sigmar, whether it's just Warhammer Fantasy Battles, because it has mostly focused on the sex side. So I'm hoping this model Slaanesh, and we've started to see some like the Underworlds or the Warcry warbands starting to play on other aspects of Slaanesh while still keeping to what we know. That's my point. Yep. My point is I like it, and I'd like to see other things. Like I'd love to see our own version of like, the Noise Marines, which is, essentially, some type of bard, some type of Pied Piper. Give me that type of style of Slaanesh as well as the titties. Like I'm not saying take away the titties, but also like the other side of the non-titties.
This is possibly one of the most awkward conversations I think I've ever been in.
All right, we can make it not all right. We'll move along.
Is that why you wore bells on your titties tonight? Is it, Magro?
I think I think that the new Sigval model is a fantastic showcase of what they can do with plastic compared to the old metal ones. Like we see it time and time again when they redo old models. But I think he's just like the latest awesome example of that.
Yeah. And the scale is awesome as well. So it's going to be
is he on a pretty big base?
He's on a huge base for his side, but he's quite like he's tall rather than wide. So, it's quite a decent looking size base.
Yeah, if you've seen the old Sigvold model, it's probably no different than a Chaos Warrior. Like it's not a massive model. It's again, it would fit quite well in Warhammer Fantasy Battles in a regiment. But when you compare this, like this will be what 60 mil, 90 mil, that kind of. It's going to be a lot bigger to like a demon print size than what we know.
I don't. Do we have pictures? I don't know if they were in the video of him compared to other stuff. Because every picture I've seen is kind of him in isolation, which makes scaling super hard. But I can't see him being on anything bigger than maybe a 50.
What are the guys behind?
Yeah, but even them, like they're hard. They'd probably be on 40s. But yeah, it's hard without anything next to him. But I think 40 mil would still is a big base when you compare to the way he's sort of standing. So I'm sure we'll find out soon.
Very soon. And we did see, like I know, Clint, when we did we looked at the Games Workshop website last month and we saw the 3 coins. We saw the Marathi coin, which we saw in, you spent, $160 Australian, and you got yourself a coin. That was last month. There were 2 other coins that were shown off. One was a Nurgle type 40k one. The other one was a Slanesh one. So knowing that we've got the Nurgle 40k coin this month, we can only assume that January is the coin for Slanesh, which may mean we start to see Mortal Slanesh sometime at minimum pre-order in January, if not released in January. Maybe released or at least pre-order for Boxing Day, if not that early January that we've seen so many armies come out. Like Gloomspite Kits, for example, there's always a new army like the second week of Jan.
The let's screw with CanCon slot for army releases.
Yeah. But what are your thoughts on Mortal Slanesh, Matt? Is there something that interests you? Do you think it's going to be something different to your meta?
Personally, still not. Yeah, I don't know. Slanesh is sort of not ever really interested me. But
it's locally, you think about from ETC though.
Yeah, I've got a couple of lists already for ETC. I think, which don't involve Slanesh, but. We do have a couple of we've got a local Slanesh guy who, our ex-GW employee, so he's got lots of models. So yeah, he might look at playing them a bit more and get those new things. But yeah, personally, no from me.
You can't be tempted from Nagash's grips.
Nah, not at this stage.
I think Clint's asleep.
No, I'm fine.
You closed your eyes and dreaming of Slanesh. dreaming of those titties. Clint, what else have we got? Clint,
wish you go with somewhere else while you talk about that. So,
what about you, Clint? Are you interested in the Slanesh at all?
I think the infantry models look really sweet. I think Sigval looks really sweet, but no, I won't be picking them up. I like them, but I won't be picking them up. So. I thought
I'd give a quick shout out in Warhammer community as well. We did see Ken Cron, Alex Cron himself, as well as our friends across the ditch. We do have Jonathan as well. Julian from New Zealand as well. So they had a little bit of a article on Meta Watch when it comes to Kharadron Overlords. That was a cool article. Nice to see some of our community members being highlighted on a global scale. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Yep. I gave that article a bit of a read as somebody who's picked up KO myself. It was good insights. I did not know that there was a KO specific podcast, which
shout out to the Aethercast boys. They're pretty cool. Lee, Cron, There's about 3 or 4 of them. Like, they put out a lot of content for a Caradron Overlords only podcast. I know Matt does Nighthaunt only. I know people are begging for like Sylvaneth. Maybe that's the new style of content. People will do specific to Sylvaneth, specific to Slaves to Darkness. If you're thinking about getting into content, maybe that's a place you want to go.
I don't know, but they're doing it. Good on them.
They're doing a great job. Jeez, you guys are like getting blood from a stone sometimes. Like getting blood from a stone. We got White Dwarf coming out this month, and it has spider rules.
Are you excited?
What do you think about this?
Well, are you excited, Coach? You're the Grotz player out of the 3 of us.
So I was trying to open up so you guys can talk.
Sorry. Well, I honestly haven't. This is the first time I've seen this, so it is exciting.
You got an
honestly, I hopefully they improve all the rules for the spiders and stuff, because I think that's a really cool army. Jesse Perkins, one of the local guys here, he had spiders right from the start, and it used to be like, I used to play Manfred and Skeletons. He used to play the spiders and shit, and we used to play like every week together. And look, they used to be quite good back then, but it'd be nice to see some good rules for them to make them more competitive and see more of them on the table, because I think conceptually, I think it's a really cool army. Like they've got the whole range. There's a whole range of, all their different spiders, the giant spider rider, your Ragnaroks, you've got the normal spider riders and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's definitely there for the taking, really. Like it can be, I think it could be a really fun army.
Before I go to Clint, like what do you think, or what would you guess, or maybe what do you think these rules look like? Or based on your games, even with Jesse, like if you were going to update the rules, maybe what's your thoughts?
I think they need some bravery bonuses. The fact that they're bravery 4 or something ridiculous, 4 or 5, yeah. Look, that was the biggest issue with them back in the day. They'd just run away as soon as you hit them. I know Grotz nowadays, you've got a lot more access to CP and being able to use Inspiring Presence. But I think, bravery, maybe they do something like Skaven where, you've got, for every 10 models, you get +2 bravery, or, something like that. I don't know. I don't know what they do there, but look, I like the idea of the mortal wound aspect with the bites and the stings or whatever it was, and the stuff like that. So I don't know. It's been a long time since I've played against them and seen them played, but I just think they could improve the rules for the Ragnaroks as well, make them a lot better. But yeah, I think there's a lot there that can be done depending on what happens, I guess, with this release.
Have you seen the rules for Squigs and Trolls that have come out previously from White Dwarf?
Me? I did with the Bounder Grots, the Bataille or whatever it was.
Jaws of Mork?
Yeah, it was really good. It added, what was it, +1 damage on the charge or whatever and stuff like that. I think that's huge. Like, it doesn't sound big, but when you've got damage 1 or whatever it is and you're taking it to damage 2, it's you're doubling the output straight away, aren't you? So even little things like that can be huge. Maybe they do something similar with the spiders, I guess. Maybe they do mortal wounds in addition to their normal damage, or they do double damage as well on a 6 to hit, or there can be just little things that when you put it in a whole army, it actually makes a huge difference. I don't know. I think it could be quite interesting.
I think that they are, with this one and the Squigs and the Trogs and things like that, they're making the Loon Shrine work for more than just Moonclan Grots, which I think is really important. Like when you're making people buy that terrain piece, like I was running, when I was running the old Squig army and I had the Loon Shrine, it had the bravery bubble for the stuff that I left next to it, and then everything else on the table just ignored it. Like, because Squigs aren't defensive, they're offensive. They're off over there. They don't care about the shrine that's in my home quarter or whatever. but making that work for the other parts of the army, because Gits is a weird sort of, here are a couple of different distinct factions, but let's not make them work together. So, but I like that they're using White Dwarf to fix that, and hopefully the spiders get the buffs that they need from this White Dwarf. I haven't seen any rules, obviously, because I don't think this is out yet. Is it? It's not out until tomorrow.
It's not out. It's not out yet, and Australia is delayed by about 2 or 3 weeks as well. So the world seems to be getting White Dwarf a little bit earlier. It might be shipping. So I've had to rely on leaks. I think I don't know when exactly we're going to get it, but I'm only hoping that we get some additional rules. Like, I really like things like the Misthaven rules, the new Cities of Sigmar Marathi book, and being able to maybe deep strike outside of terrain pieces, I think would be pretty cool. I think some type of thematic benefit. I think Squigs, they've done a really good job thematically, improving their weakness, being able to re-roll their movement. The Trogs, they've gotten some really cool rules as well. And hey, being able to bring back half a unit of Trogs as well from the Rune Shrine, it's pretty massive. I think the Spiders, certainly, I do feel for the Spider players, because they do have quite old models. I think some of them, like their heroes, are fine cast or maybe even metal. So when you look at some of their sculpts, like they're in it for the love and the passion. Give them something cool, something thematic, something that gets them in the middle of the table.
They could implement something along the lines of being spiders, webs. Like they could make enemies neg one to hit or not be able to retreat. Something, little rules like that. Who knows?
Kind of like what the Alapexes now do with the net.
Mm-hmm.
I think some thematic rules like that, like being able to deep strike or teleport through terrain, some type of, because I think one of the challenges is they're just not fast enough, and because they don't have a high armor, they don't have a lot of wounds except for the big spiders. They are susceptible to die quickly, unless you're really lucky or you've got a really good matchup. So I think either way, I'm really excited about these new Celestial Tomes or Tome Celestial. I think the only thing that's sad about it is that it probably means that the Gits won't get a lot of love in Broken Realms. Maybe it's only the Goblins that will get some type of, like Scragrot and his Goblins will get some love in Broken Realms. But considering I can't see Trogs, I can't see Squigs, I can't now see Spiders get a lot of love, and they've had White Dwarf recently. That's my thoughts.
They might also have a battalion or two in there for them to get their drops down, stuff like that. So who knows?
No, either way, it looks really cool. A lot of cool stuff coming. Fingers crossed, Spider players. And of course, we'll do a list discussion as well when it comes to Spiders. And I think, Clint, the last thing we've got to talk about is obviously, other than the topic of the episode, but the last thing we've got is this thing. These I was surprised. I will honestly say that when these battle boxes, these big Christmas boxes that we've been accustomed to every year, I didn't think we were going to get them. And I think I even said that on Warhammer Weekly with Vince and Tom. I'm like, I don't think we're going to get them. Or I didn't think we were going to get them because we were getting those small little boxes in partnership with Marathi.
Mm. Yeah, but we did, and they are we've lost Matt. Definitely a mixed bag.
What do you mean by mixed bag? Like, is this so just for people who haven't seen this just yet, we've got ourselves a Zench one, we've got a KO one, we've got a Gloomspite one, and we've got an Ogre one, as well as some 40k ones. But hey, it's not a 40k podcast.
Yeah, so the Zinch one, it's awesome. It's got a lot of change in it. But then he's paired with a bunch of mortals, which is interesting. Just interesting choices. You got the Gaunt Summoner in there as well. And then you've got the Ogre one has a Gargant in it, which is, it's interesting. But the Ogre one's like, there's a lot of points in that one. I think it's like 1,500 points or something like that. It's a ridiculous amount. Like, for points, I think it's the best value, but on dollars, it is the least, I think, is what the breakdown I've seen.
It's interesting, too. The out of those 4 boxes, I reckon 3 of those armies you're seeing in the top meta at the moment, too. and it looks like they're kind of added in the models that people aren't really buying for those top meta armies. So that's kind of interesting.
A lot of the time, these boxes are like that, though. Like they sort of lean slightly into what's doing okay, but they tend to be, what models aren't sort of selling.
It's interesting because you're right. Like when we start looking at things, so let's look at the boxes. We've got the Disciples of Tzeentch one, and you're right, Lord of Change, super popular, but mortals aren't really being run at the moment. And the only thing that I can think of right now is we've got updates coming through Broken Realms, and maybe we're going to have a focus not on the demons of Tzeentch, but rather back to, because the pendulum swings quite often. We started with Change Host right at the start of the AOS 1, then we moved to Skyfires and Acolytes with their shields, and then we swung back to what we know now, and maybe the pendulum's going to swing back to the mortal side of Tzeentch.
I can't help but think you're giving them too much credit on that. I do think it's about stock levels and putting together a nice box. Sorry, I'm going to be the pessimist for once. But yeah, no, I think you're giving them a touch too much credit if you're hoping that all these boxes tie into what's coming up.
But we don't know. What I'm saying is like right now, it's probably not the best value. But in 6 months' time, we don't know the world we're living in. And if the pendulum swings again, if you sit on this box, you're actually potentially going to be in a good spot for the meta. Or maybe I'm completely wrong and it's still going to be about Change Host. We just don't know with General's Handbook, with Broken Realms, with potentially AOS 3, with potentially New Battle Tome.
Yeah.
I think that's my point. We just don't know.
Yeah. And look, in that particular box, you got lots of Tzeentch Marauders for your Slaves to Darkness too. So
we've also got the KO, but go back to the Ogres for a second. It's the same deal, right? Matt, you were talking about Ogres being strong in the meta right now, but it's the other side of the pendulum. It's the Beast Claw Raiders that are currently strong, and not a lot of dad bod kind of gut busters are currently doing as well as Beast Claw.
Out of that whole box there, I think the only competitive, I'm not going to say the only decent thing. The only competitive decent thing is the Iron Guts. Everything else there is not competitive in the current meta. Look, a unit of 10 ogres are competitive, can be competitive, but you've got your 4. What are the shooty dudes? I can't think of their name right now.
Lead Belchers.
That's it. You got your 4 lead Belchers are pretty useless. They're horrible, to be honest. And you've just got the lone Gargant. I don't know. Look, if you're going to go out and buy that box, if you're wanting to start an ogre, just an ogre more tribes, I think this is probably a really good spot. And you can actually convert a lot of those normal ogres into Iron Guts quite easily, because with the Iron Gut sprue, you get quite a lot of extras. I remember when I first bought my ogres Battle Force box years ago. It was a similar actually box set to this without the Iron Blaster and the Gargant. It's pretty much the same, but you could change the ogres quite easily into Iron Guts, which made it more competitive. But yeah, as you say, I think Clint sort of hit the nail on the head. They're trying to. It's almost like a stock move on of, buy this army because it's the current meta, the more tribes, but you're buying stuff that people aren't really using at the moment.
But in saying all of that, it last year that IDK had the Sharks in there, and I think everyone laughed at the idea except for Ben Spinetti saying, "Why would I want a shark? Nobody wants a shark." And all of a sudden, sharks are all the rage.
I bought that box. I got it.
But everyone was raging about the sharks. Like, nobody likes sharks. Why isn't there more eels?
But they had the Thralls in there, which were pretty good value, actually, when you're buying them in the box. Because I think you actually almost got the sharks for free in that box. And that's why I bought it, because I was wanting to build an all Thrall army. But yeah, that's fell to the wayside. I've still got the army sitting there waiting for it. I think this new book might make it good, but we'll see.
And then finally, we have the KO and the Gloomspite. So I'm not a fan of the squig trog one. I think if you are a Gits player, you're buying them to either go one of either ways. I struggle to see a world where you put them both in a cohesive force because they don't quite work as well with each other.
Yeah, to me, from not being a player of that army, that box set actually looks really cool. Like it looks like a really cool project box. I love the look of the squigs. I've always loved them, and those new Trog models, I just think are amazing. Like if I was to walk into GW right now and buy a box set this size just for hobby wise, this would be what I'd buy personally. I just think I've always loved the models, but obviously, yeah, I don't know. Competitively, they're probably not great, but to look at, I really like the look of them. I think they're really cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a this is really cool box, not a this is how to start an army box, unfortunately. Yeah. Or it's a how to start 2 armies box because you buy 2 of them and then you've got a Trog army and a Gits army. Like,
yeah. But when you get into Gits, you probably
Squigs army, sorry.
You will be in a Gits army for a while. So by buying this box, you probably will go out and build a whole Squig army. You will build a Trog army. You will probably build some Gits. So I think either way, I think they absolutely can work. You probably find it challenging bringing them together as a cohesive force. But obviously, we are talking from a competitive point of view. I think all 4 boxes are great, obviously, for painting. Having a lot of change is pretty sweet. Some interesting models coming out of the Ogre box as well from a hobby perspective. And then the KO box as well. Obviously, they're doing quite well in the meta, and you get some of the sexy things.
With that Gits box, how many points roughly that you reckon? 1,000?
About 500. I don't know. I'm just thinking
got the Trog King or whatever he is. So yeah. I'm just thinking, like, you could buy 2 of these and have a 2K army. I'm sort of roughly thinking, like, and you could have a lot of fun with it, I guess. But yeah, as we say, competitively, you're probably.
Well, how many bounders are there? Is there 20 bounders or 15 or something like that? So that's 3.
Is it 15?
16.
Yeah, so that. Well, there's a like a hero in there. So bounders are 100 for 5.
That's correct.
So yeah,
300 points plus 100 for the Loon Boss, who's up at the front as well. So that's 400 points. Your regular Trogs are 160 for 3, 150, 160 for 3. So you got 2 there. So there's another 300-ish points. And then you dank
Tarly 182 is in the chat helping us out immensely just by throwing all the points at us.
All right. Either way, I think there's an interesting battle boxes there, and KO.
I got nothing to say about KO. I don't really know how they work. So
I mean, you got
with points wise and that.
So KO is an interesting box because I think everything in that box is useful except for the fact that they put Brock in instead of the dude on dirigible suit. Because gun haulers are awesome. The dudes, the Endrin riggers or Skywardens, whichever you want to build from that, they're quite useful in an army. The frigate, most KO players are going to have a frigate in smaller games, and then an ironclad later on. Some people just have frigates, so it's pretty much all useful, especially if you're starting. And I think Tom on Warhammer Weekly sort of expressed this as well. But it's Brock that kind of kills that box. And I think it is the most expensive in Australia. It's at $350.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, these are all different prices.
They are all different prices, which is really interesting as well. Because once upon a time, they just
the cheapest.
Yeah, I think, and the Ogre one is fairly cheap as well. But I think you're almost better off buying 2 Star collecting boxes, and you'll get some Thunderers as well. So you won't get the frigate, but you'll get 10 Thunderers, which are also useful. You'll get your 2 gun haulers. You'll get your 6 Bubble Boys. You'll get some an Endrin Master heroes as well. So yeah, it's a weird box. I wouldn't buy it personally, but I've just bought a ton of chaos. So
Literally the day before, or the couple of days before.
literally, I think the day before they showed us what was in the box, I've gone and bought. Yeah, so.
Oh.
Look, either way, it's very, very cool. There's a lot going on. We obviously had some reveals as well with, is it a Warcry or Underworlds? We started to see what's coming up. I think coming up in the next couple of months, people are still thinking Vampirates are coming. Who knows what's coming on, but it looks like there is, as we lead up into potentially at least the next General's Handbook, at minimum, potentially Age of Sigmar 3. We've got a lot of stuff going on, and who knows what's coming with Broken Realms. And I guess the next 6 to 9 months could be an interesting one.
Absolutely.
I know it's keeping me busy when it comes to lists as well, like just trying to book in like 5 or 6 different list discussions just based off one bloody book. So
yeah, absolutely.
All right, do we want to get into the main topic, or do we want to start talking a little bit about, because I think one thing that's really cool is we are really lucky to get back into events. This is the first time since COVID really hit. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, SAGT was the last 2-day match play Age of Sigmar event before COVID hit. And we've kind of started over the last couple of months having one-dayers, having small store events. I know Brisbane's had a bunch, Sydney's had a bunch. I can see, Matt, you've tried to, I don't know if you've had them yet, but I know you've been trying to get your club meets back up. People are getting their club meets back happening, but we haven't actually had an official 2-day match play event until the weekend just passed, which was in Canberra at Everwinter. Matt, you were going to say about your scene.
Yeah, look, we've I think we've had about 4 months now of local games days. So yeah, we've been pretty good here. We I don't even know if we ever had a positive case locally with COVID. So obviously we're still being COVID safe and that. But yeah. But no, we've been playing for quite a while now. So which has been really good. We've been getting some good numbers for such a small community. So. We obviously mix ours in with the 40k guys as well, just to boost numbers and get everyone around. So no, it's been really good. We were meant to have one in the middle of this month, but I think I'll cancel that because it's just too hard with Christmas and there's always something on this time of year. So.
And shout out to Talia, who reminded me that we actually had 2 large events last weekend. We also had a Perth one, I think it was Battle Masters as well, happening at the same time. So we actually had two match play events happening last week. And I know they're starting to come back on the calendar. They're slowly creeping in. There's a couple in March. There's one in December. I know there's talk about potentially replacing CanCon because obviously that's been cancelled into a couple of smaller events. I know in Sydney, at least, my Moab venue is looking at trying to do some type of match play mini tournament.
Well, actually, on that subject, GoldCon is being run by Simon Hall on the CanCon weekend, which will be, I think, 64 players or something like that. So he's literally just put the Facebook event up this weekend. So yeah, full swing in to events back. Yeah.
SAGT's coming back. Vic GT is taking the place as well because of venue restrictions. They obviously, sold out very quickly in SAGT, and Vic GT is picking up the slack.
Yeah, super quick. It just goes to show how keen people are to get back to events. I think Adelaide's SAGT was sold out within seconds. What was it, 50 odd players or something? So
just under 50.
For something to sell out that quick, it's pretty amazing that people are wanting to get back and play games. And
I think it sold like for this time last year when they were selling tickets for the 2020 event. I think it sold out within an hour. So you combine that with,
I think it was.
Yeah, so you combine that with now people not having played since the last SAGT. People were bloody on it. Yeah.
I think it was, who was it? I saw it on Twitter. Someone had responded. I think it was, I can't think of who it was on Twitter, but they made an interesting point. They're like, the Age of Sigmar community feels like a wound up coil right now. And like the minute these events kind of just come up, there's just so much energy. It's just boing. Everyone's just jumped out and just grab tickets as quick as possible because they're just so keen. They're so eager. They've been either not able to play. I know for myself, I had America lined up. I didn't go to. I was going over to Notorious GT. I know I was going up to the Runax team tournaments. Hopefully, Briz Hammer. I was going to go to. There was like literally 6 events. So the minute a event came up, like Everwinter, I jumped at it immediately. And SAGT, I was going to jump at it immediately. So I think that's just generally where the community's at, and they just want to roll dice. But we had the opportunity. We were really fortunate to actually roll dice this weekend.
Yeah.
He means you, Matt.
I'm just opening it up.
I
thought you were about to lead on with something, dude.
Smooth.
So yeah, we went up to Canberra. I took the family up actually, and we went up early and spent some time with my brother-in-law and his wife. But yeah, and then come along to Saturday morning. I was actually really nervous. It was like a game before. It was like getting ready for a football grand final or something. And yeah, it'd been so long that I hadn't played a tournament since CanCon. Start of the year, so nearly 12 months really when you work it out. So yeah, it was very exciting. And as far as lists went, when I watched the list review show, it was probably one of the toughest tournaments I've ever been to be honest. Some of the lists that were there were just bang on. They could have won any tournament in the country, I think. So the fact that they were all at one tournament, yeah, it was a very, very tough tournament to go to. But yeah, it was hosted by Michael Thompson. He's recently moved down from Rockhampton, and he's moved down for work and other reasons. And he was keen to get an event up and running. I think he organised it quite a few months ago. I remember him telling me about it. I think, it would have been 5 or 6 months ago he organised it. And I just told him he was mad. I said, what's the point? I said that you won't get an event. It's not going to go ahead, obviously with COVID and all that sort of stuff. And he said, oh, we'll give it a try. And yeah, it was actually very lucky. Like all the measured guys, all the Victorian guys, we only had I'm New South, but I live on the border. We only had the border restriction. The border was only opened a week before. So if that had been delayed one more week, none of those guys would have been able to make it. So
and there was probably 25% of the field was measured because I think it was a 40 player. It was like 36 in the end. I think there was at least 10 measured boys at the event.
At least. Yeah.
So at least 25% would have just disappeared with one border restriction.
Exactly. So yeah, it was took big kahunas to give it a crack, and yeah, it all went smoothly. I think I don't recall hearing anyone complain about anything as far as the event went, so that was all good. But yeah, everyone was just keen to roll dice. Everyone was happy. Everyone was excited. And obviously some people had been working on these armies all year, trying to get them out and play with them. So yeah, it was a good time. So then we got there Saturday morning on to round 1, I guess.
So was there anything interesting in the pack that's perhaps a little bit different from normal? I know Michael puts a lot of thought into the scenario, like into the battle plans and what he wants out of them, and like he did because he does the Northern Perspective podcast, or did. He had an entire episode that was just on battle plans, and so like I know he would have put a bit of thought into those. And is there anything else, any different objectives or any sort of interesting scoring or something from the event?
The scoring actually was very interesting. It was very different. And I don't know how he worked it all out, but for a major win, you got 1,000 points. Like it was 1,000 points. I don't know why it was 1,000 and not just 10 or something, but it was 1,000. If you got a secondary, it was worth 150 points. If you got 2, it was worth 300. You also you didn't get points for denying your opponent's secondaries, like in other events. So that was different as well. as far as battle plans went, they were all pretty good except Total Commitment. I hate Total Commitment. I had a lot of chats to Michael before the thing saying how much I hate Total Commitment. I'm like, Night Haunt's not that good as it is, and you're just ruining how my army works. I'm like, but
don't take dip striking.
Hey,
just don't take dip striking.
Yeah, well, yeah.
and for anyone who wants to know what those scenarios were, they were Total Conquest, Scorched Earth, Focal Points, Total Commitment, Forcing the Hand in that order.
Yep. And interestingly enough, he left out Blade's Edge because I've played a few games with him on Tabletop Simulator, and he hates Blade's Edge. I think that's the reason he left it out. But yeah, I think the battle plans were all pretty good personally. So yeah, it was nothing out of the ordinary there. I guess, what was it? 4 out of the 5 battle plans were only 9-inch deployments. 9 away.
Short. They were quite short. They were very favorable for some armies, and it probably explains why we saw a lot more probably destruction armies that we would normally see. When you look at the list submission, it had a higher representation of destruction than any tournament I've been to. There was no Daughters of Cain. There was no Iden the Deepkin. There was one Seraphon army, and it was more of a it wasn't the magical Starborn. It was a coalesced force. So I think it was a very interesting meta, very heavy shooting, heavy destruction. But it was I think the 2 other things that I noticed that were quite interesting was that the rounds were only 2 hours and a half, and I know some people were struggling to get their games done, and I think maybe we're just out of our match fitness from a deployment point of view, and just kind of getting our games done. Some people are still okay, some people are struggling a little bit.
And I think the fact that so as you can see in the background there, the tables, I don't know, they weren't really in any order in particular. So when you were assigned a table number, the first round we didn't even have numbers on the tables. It was just Michael's like, yeah, that's number 1, that's number 2, that's number 3, and we had to try and find our way there. But yeah, I think might have been Chris Welfare wrote out some numbers and chucked them on the tables. So, but in that what I was getting at, that 2.5 hours, in that time limit, you had to read your matchup on the board, you had to find your table, had to get to it, start setting up your army. So you probably game time, you might have had maybe 2 hours, if that, for a game.
That's not a lot of time, especially considering it's some people's first tournament back in quite a long time.
But 9 to 12 months. I
think personally, my first game, I think we were pushing for time, and we're in turn 3. I had the bye round 2, round 3, same thing. I think we only got to the end of turn 4, and I'd nearly wiped his whole army. So turn 3 and 4 were really quick anyway. And even game 4 was the same. I think we only maybe got to end of round 3, turn 3. So, I found I'm not normally a slow player, and I don't really have a slow army. I know how it works. I know how to play it quite quick, but that's
not what I've heard. That's what I heard on the internet. The other thing that I thought was quite interesting, I don't know if it was good or bad, it was just different, is that Michael had the TO had restricted the auxiliary objectives. So instead of it being, was it 18 is currently auxiliary objectives, it was selected to a specific 10. So Michael had handpicked 10. It was only those 10 you could choose from. And I know some feedback from some players is they felt very hamstrung based on their army being able to meet the 10 that were available to them. So
the other issue there was there was no way of keeping track of secondaries either. Like, you could literally just play the same secondary every game and no one would know. Like, it was kind of weird that you didn't put it in. And I think that's not a bad thing. I think the tournament overall was really good. And I think Michael had a little bit of trouble with the event TOs as well, because they said they'd take over and they knew how to use tabletop, what's it called? Tabletop
TO.
Tabletop TO. They said they knew how to use it, blah blah blah. And end of first game, we were stuck standing around waiting for them to sort it all out because they sort of didn't know what they were doing. And so yeah, he sort of got a bit blindsided by that, which was not Michael's fault at all. And so that kind of put us a little bit behind time there, but we still had the same amount of round time. But yeah, I think rounds could have been a little bit longer. I know a couple of players thought they could have won their games if they had one more turn, and stuff like that. And you don't want that from a tournament. You don't want to get, you don't want that feeling in your guts that, if you played one more turn, that you could have won. You want to know that you lost fair and square, I guess.
I think the feedback is for TOs who are listening to this is that potentially think about how you can simplify your first tournament back and start thinking about that the world that we came from isn't quite the world we're currently in. So maybe look at giving at least, round one, maybe even round two, a little bit extra time as people are getting back into the rhythm. Because certainly game 3, game 4, game 5, you're certainly in your groove, you're faster, you know what you're doing. Your auxiliaries are now being reduced. So something to keep in mind potentially. But it was a great tournament, in my opinion. Got to meet some cool players, got to play some great armies. The tables looked good. There was terrain on the board. Didn't have to worry about that. It was air-conned sometimes.
It was so as you can see, if you look at that picture there on the screen right now, Magro was right over the other side up against a nice cool wall. But if you were playing on the top tables, you were against that window and it was something like 35, 36 degrees outside. So it was just like a radiant heater just pushing through that big glass wall as you're trying to play.
That sounds like the best reason I've ever heard to be in the middle, like
in the bottom tables.
The middle of the bottom, just away from that heat and near the aircon.
James Mabry right there in that photo is living his best life, being in the middle, being away from that window. No, it was really cool. It was great to see how things had changed, but also how things were different. So I had 5 games. Matt, you had 4 games, and we'll explain a little bit very soon why you only had 4. Spoiler alert, Matt ran away and was crying after his first game, and that's why we had to kind of bring him back and give him some candy and some tissues. But Clint, you take back over. Sorry, I just throwing shade at Matt.
Just laughing. So, what was the round 1 scenario again?
Total conquest.
Thank you. I knew there were 2 totals. So, the tables look all right. In terms of terrain and stuff like that.
This one was probably the least terrain out of all my games. This was we were in a private room, in a back room.
Ooh.
It was kind of a bit weird, but my first game, I was matched up against Martin Brooks and his Moor Tribes. People know him as Pask. And
you've now just ruined his secret identity. So
yeah. So I knew it was always he's got 3 Stonehorns, and I knew any other battle plan, I could almost guarantee I would have won the game. Not guarantee it, but I think I would have had a really good chance of winning the game. With this battle plan, only having 4 objectives. If you take the objective back, you get an extra point. If you're a hero, you get an extra point. So when you got Stonehorns that are heroes and worth 10 models, it's always uphill battle. And I think after he gave me first turn, I moved up the board. I charged in with my Spirit Host because you're only 18 inch apart. So got the charge off. Killed a few Mournfang, got some Harridans in there as well. His turn 1, he sort of hit back, did a few things, and then it just kind of went back and forth. In my turn 2, I think I left 1 Stonehorn on 1 wound and the other one on 2, and that kind of what lost me the game. If both of those Stonehorns had died in my turn 2, I would have won the game. But spoiler alert, he went on to win the game. He just sort of had the numbers and the wounds left in the end to push through and take the objectives back off me and score the bonus points and the extra points. So it was just no excuse. He played really well. I don't want to downplay Martin at all. He's a great bloke, great opponent. He played really well. I just feel it was just a bad matchup, battle plan wise for me, and made it really hard. But it was points wise, it was really close. Like I think it was 15 to I think 20 or something in the end. But once again, we only played like three. What do you say? Yeah, so that's right. I moved Olander up, had a pretty good screen in front of her, but I was within 18 inches of the butcher, and he cast them all, and then he kept rolling 4-ups, He did like 5. I think after saves, he'd done 5 mortal wounds, and then to Lady Olander, she only had 2 left, and then he did the two bird mortal wound attacks to her and finished her off. So yeah, the fact he got really lucky there, that also sealed the game for him as well. If she was alive after turn 1, would have been a lot different. So, but anyway, he hats off to him. He played really well, and he come away with a major win.
Fair enough. Probably not the start. If I recall in our ETC chat, you were sort of feeding back how you were going, and I don't think you were like not unhappy, but it's not the start that you would have hoped for. So,
as I said earlier, I went to the event wanting to do well with Nighthaunt, and out of all the lists and armies, more tribes weren't the one I was worried about. I was more worried about KO and Tzeentch, change host. So to lose that first game to an army I wasn't really worried about is kind of does put you on the back foot a bit. And but it happens. It's a dice game, and that's why we play. It's fun.
Yep. And then your round 1 coach have big things called on stuff. Is that, that pretty much your weekend?
It's funny because the first round was what I call the AOS Coach Discord Cup, because Mat Tyrrell played a Discord player, so Pask. I got matched up with another person in my Discord. I got matched up with Torrell Black, aka Jonathan Burns, and I believe Craig Anderson got matched up with Joel Graham, who's another Discord player. So there was like at least 3, if not 4, Discord matchups, which was either reflective of my Discord or just really unlucky to get matched up. But so I played my Gargants, my sons, playing Take a Tribe, and I was up against Cities of Sigmar. It was a Greywater fastness, but make no mistake, it wasn't the war machine that you think. It was Phoenix Guard, it was Iron Drakes, it was Bridge, it was your stabby sorceress with her stabby friends, a couple of Gyrocopters, and a Knight Venator, which I thought was interesting. I thought he would go a Knight of Zeros, but he went with a Venator instead for the once per game shot. So I didn't win that one. I don't know why my camera's doing a weird autofocus right now. So I didn't win that one. What happened was I ran up the board. I won the deployment. I thought I'd go first. I run up the board as quick as possible, hoping for a charge. Unfortunately, couldn't get the charge off. The dice weren't. Oh no, actually, I got the Kraken Eater into the Iron Breakers. That was the only charge I got off, and I was able to delete 3/4 of the unit. I think there's only 3 or 4 left in the first turn. But really, what I was trying to mostly do was tie up the battlefield and deny as much space as possible for those the bridge with the Iron Drakes, with the Warden King and the Rune Lord, that combination. I wanted to deny as much space as possible and try to score as early as possible. Unfortunately, it got doubled, and while we were going back and forth and I was up on victory points, I lost it in turn 4, when eventually the bridge did go off in turn 3, and then each turn he was able to delete a Mega Gargant and a Man Crusher with 1 single unit of Iron Drakes. So yeah, it was just point click. So by the end of turn, so I was up and it was just like holding for anyone who plays Gargants, you get the lead up early and you just got to hold out as long as possible. And unfortunately, turn 4, it was just the time that I lost all of my bodies. So I was really impressed considering the matchup, and I would have liked to have done better. Certainly, Jonathan played a good game. We had a lot of fun. I got to kill a whole bunch of things, but it was just that shooting was always going to be tough. the my Kraken Eater ignores Rend 1, so I was hoping that the prayer wouldn't go off to turn those Iron Drakes into Rend -2, and every time they did. So it was just like with all the re-rollings to hit and the Rend -2 and the big damage from the rocket launchers and all that stuff, it was a tough matchup. There was very little I could have done other than get into combat early or get a double turn and really tie up those Iron Drakes into combat.
Yeah, they're pretty tough.
Yeah, look. I think lesson learned. I think look. I made it really tough. Was able to chew through basically the Phoenix Guard unit, chew through a whole bunch of his army, but with some of the mobility from the Venatard, I think there was one gyrocopter, and it was just that it was finally getting those Iron Drakes in the center of the board and just click, boom, click, boom, click, boom. That was that. I stopped it until turn 3, and then come turn 3, turn 4, it was those 2 turns that went from me winning to me losing.
Yep.
So that was a good game. It was a good game. So both Matt and I are on 0-1.
Right.
Great stuff.
Okay, so then you did army voting.
Yeah, we did. So we had army voting, and I was surprised, Matt. I don't know what you thought, but there wasn't nearly as many people putting up for their army. So it was the coolest army voting. So everyone could self-nominate and put their own army up for display, and there wasn't that many. There wasn't many display boards in general, and there wasn't many people who put up their boards. Matt, I don't know. Did you notice that, or were you just smashing the Domino's pizza?
No, I missed out on lunch because our game went to time, and by the time I actually got out, and everyone had eaten lunch. So. I think there was probably more than you. I think everyone had sort of set their army up just on their table, but as you say, I don't think there wasn't many display boards. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 other display boards than in this photo. But yeah, it was. There wasn't many. There was no display boards apart from these couple, and then people had just thrown their army together on a. Like I just threw mine together on the my transport table thing and sat it on top of my game table and just left it there. But yeah, I don't know. It was. I think people were just there to play. I don't think they were too worried about hobby. I don't.
I certainly.
I think you could probably see it from the even from just list reviews and stuff, like the lists that were put in. It was more of a get out and play competitive games sort of tournament than a say like a CanCon tournament where you see a lot of hobby armies and project armies and stuff. So yeah, you're right. There wasn't a lot there as far as the coolest army went. Because
this is yours, Anthony, and is that James Mabry?
Yeah. So the ones that I recognized being up were Chris Welfare, James Mabry, and myself. I did see other people set up their army, but I think one of the challenges with tournaments, and again, maybe a lesson for TOs out there, is to create a designated space so everyone knows where to set up their armies. I think when you tell somebody, and not that Michael told us this, but it's just when you don't have the designated space, people just set up their armies where they are. And if you are hiding in the corner, if you're hiding somewhere, you're not quite in a walkway, it is really hard to know whose armies are actually up for display and whose aren't. So by having a designated area, a couple of tables, even if it means you going around shortlisting if you're restricted on space, I think that for me is important. So everyone has the same. I know when I've done my events as well, sometimes you've got really wonderful spaces where it's easy to see with lots of light. Sometimes they're really dark. So again, comparing armies between light and dark, you don't get to see the details. So but yes, on the left is my army. I have been working, I mentioned Armies on Parade. It was something that I wanted to give a shot. If I get shortlisted, I'll be super happy. Disappointed that I didn't get the display board that I wanted. The resin was still curing, so I couldn't do the final touches on my display board. But overall, James Mabry and I tied. I think James has got a really awesomely painted army, so I'm glad and honored to have shared coolest army with James.
I think yours looked really cool. I think I mentioned to you actually on the day that because the resin was still drying, it looked like it had like chunks of snow floating in the water, and because your army's all like light blue, like they're frozen, I said, "Oh, that's a pretty cool idea." And I think I mentioned it to you that I knew you'd put a lot of stuff in the water, like fish and all that. And I'm like, "Oh, by putting all this ice on the top," I said to you, "You've hidden all the stuff in the water." And then you turned to me and said, "Yeah, it's not actually how it's meant to look." And I said, "Oh, okay." So
yeah, the resin's still curing. It's still curing, unfortunately. So it means I couldn't buff and polish the side, which meant that I couldn't quite see. But there was like a treasure chest. There was a part of a boat in there. There was fish that I'd used from a like an eidolon, and there was two stingrays, aka screamers, and it's a whole bunch of stuff that look, I'm happy. Got the smoke machine happening, so kind of did a little bit of MacGyver and had like a remote controlled USB powered vape machine that was powering up some smoke. You can kind of see in the bottom pictures the smoke kind of coming out of the house. So I officially submitted it to Armies on Parade on Monday. So I took some nicer photos, but that was my display board.
Kind of looked like a Viking-esque village that was in winter with the snow and the ice in the water. But yeah, no, it was really cool. You've done a good job.
So thanks. The story that I had was there's a little island or a little part in Akshi which is very frost. Despite it being the realm of fire, it's very frosty. And I always had in my mind that my Gargants would be very Viking-esque. I wanted to draw from the Vikings, and after this event, I'm going to do some tattoos. I'm going to do more work on my Gargants, but I wanted to draw from like a Viking raiding aesthetic, and knowing Gargants go in and raid villages anyway for cows and people. That was the kind of the vision. I wanted to have them raiding a town as opposed to what you normally see, which is them in their home, them in their city, them in that's where most people put their display board. I wanted it in more of an invader's territory. So. That was the story I went for.
Yeah, that's cool.
It makes sense. And you'll be able to use that display board again. Like once your resin cures and you do get to buff it out, people will be able to see all the cool bits and pieces that you put in there. So,
yeah, that'll be this year's display board. But I'm already starting to think about my Armies on Parade 2021, which hopefully will be my CanCon 2022, being that January is CanCon for those.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows? But my second game was against Jono Ingra. He was playing Courage and Overlords in Scorched Earth, and my gosh, was that a tough matchup. Straight up, it's tough because you are getting bonus points for burning your opponent's objectives and the ability to fly high and just literally pick up your model and go into enemy lines and just burn where you want to burn. And being that I've only got really 6 drops, I don't take up a lot of board space. It's hard to attack and defend with Gargants. If I just sit on my objectives, I'm not going to score maximum points because I'm not getting my opponent's objective points. And if I just sit on my home objectives, it's just going to shoot me off anyway. So I had to go attack. I had to get in. And unfortunately, again, very similar to game 1, I lost it in turn 4. I was up. But it was those little sneaky gun haulers who were able to retreat and then kind of pick up, drop, and then start burning. And because they've got a lot of heroes, little small heroes, you did get extra points as well. So that just, again, turn 4, it was just became too hard, and I ended up losing it. So a really good game, but I was just going up against 2 shooting armies back to back. I felt was just really unlucky.
I watched a fair bit of this game, and it didn't help that first turn you ran everything off your own objectives, so you didn't even score. You didn't even score a point. So you were 4 points down turn 1 because you just obviously, as you say, you had to move up the board, but
have to do something.
Yeah, you probably had a couple of Gargants you probably could have left back and it just score those points, because at the end of the day, points are what win you this game. But it was as you say, it's a hard matchup with shooting. You got to get across the board and all that. But I was
hoping to get in and do enough damage that I could stop them from flying high, and by doing that, I would then be able to deny. I just didn't get the rolls that I needed. It was really risky. I just thought I would be able to. That was going to point, click, delete a Gargant off anyway, so I thought I had to be really aggressive.
Got to bet heavy to win heavy.
Look, I could have sat there. I don't know if the outcome would have changed.
Did you have choice the first turn? Oh, you don't remember.
I don't recall. I don't recall if you had a battalion or not.
So if you had choice, your choice would have been to go second. That way you're scoring. You've got hold of the objectives, and then you can then run up the board, and you're still holding them.
Obviously playing for the double turn.
Then you're playing for a double as well. But yeah, I don't know if you had the choice. So
I wasn't confident. He had the setup. He had the ironclad. He had the double. I knew that he'd go up and then just delete one or multiple units. And knowing the really rubbish armor saves, I still think it was the right call. I don't know if I would change it because it was really close. Like I said, I was up. I had some really rubbish attack rolls into the ironclad, and Jono even said it himself. He's like, "Look, you were really unlucky with some of those attacks, and if more of those attacks went through, the ironclad wouldn't have been able to fly high, which had the admirals, the Arcanauts in there. He had the balloon boys attached. Like I would have been able to delete them, but it's a dice game. It's how it rolls. Love to do a sliding doors and watch myself and see how I would have gone if I would have sat there and took it. And, maybe I'm overestimating the damage output of KO. But just seeing what those boats can do when you've loaded up with the balloon boys, when you loaded up with boys on the ship, I know they've got that serious output of damage.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
So might talk about my round two. There's no photos of it. So what happened was, because I'd lost my first game, I was down the bottom of the ladder, and I got matched up against the Buybuster, which was Michael Thompson. And when we got to the table, I'd set it all up. He'd been doing stuff, and he rocked up, and he sort of just said to me, he goes, whatever happens here, you'll get the win, because I don't want to, being a Buybuster, I don't want to take the win off anyone. And I said, look, if that's the case, I said, I've been playing tons of games lately. I said, I don't really need the practice, or I don't really need to play a game if I don't have to. And so he said, oh, you sure? Like, I said, yeah, I'll just help you out with whatever you need help with for the turn. So look, at the end of the day, I was getting the win whether I played or not. So I said, well, I'll just have the time off, and I'll get around the other tables. That got me a chance to check out Coach's game, and it was actually really good to be able to walk around and just see how other games were going. So that's why my round two was a non-event. But I think personally, I preferred to do it that way, because at the end of the day, what's the point of rolling dice for 2.5 hours if you don't have to? If I've been playing lots of games recently anyway with that army. And he was happy to do that, and I was happy to do it. So that's what happened with my round two. So then we went on to round three.
Would have been good to just have photos of you just like lounging back in the chair and like having a drink.
It's interesting because when you do go walking around, when your game's over and you go walk around and see what other people are doing, it's normally towards the very end, and the outcome's either determined or you're at that clutch moment. But Matt, you probably would have been able to see the early momentum building and seeing the mistakes, seeing the deployment, seeing those really critical priority roles early in the game, or whatever it might be. And it's those little clutch moments that make a huge difference to the outcome. So I imagine that would have been a different experience. There was
one game in particular. It was James Maybury. He'll hate me talking about this, but I rocked up, and I think it was turn 2, and he had Lady Olander, and he had 8 Mirmorn Banshees and his Guardian of Souls, and they're all 9 inches away from Tyson Gleason's Magmadroth, like the hero, and he had to kill that hero that turn. And he's rolled the War Scroll spell for Lady Olander that makes a unit -1 to hit, makes you +1 to hit him. He's like, it goes off, he puts it on the Magmadroth, and he's like, I'll cast Shake Miss, and he casted it, went off, he cast it onto his Mirmorn, And what was the other spell? A Soul Cage, so makes a unit fight last. So he cast that on the Magmadroth as well. He's like, oh, this never happens. This never happens. I never get everything off. Anyway, I'm like, oh, this is cool. And I was sort of watching him, and I walked off, and I came back, and he's in the combat phase, and the Mirmorn Banshees were still 9 inches away. And I said, what happened with your Mirmorn? Like, I waited till the next turn because I didn't want to interrupt that actual turn. I said, so what happened last turn? How come you left your Mirmorn out? Like, you were saying how, like, you've just buffed them up to the 9s, and like they're ready to go in to murder this Magmadroth. And he just looked at me. He goes, oh no, they failed both their 9-inch charges. I said, yeah, but they were already on the board. Why didn't you move them closer? And he's like, oh yeah, they were too, weren't they? So stuff like that. It's just funny stuff like that you see during a game. That, like, I was standing there watching as he was like in that turn. I'm watching him from afar, and I'm just thinking, are you going to charge it? And I'm not going to say anything because it's not my play. I'm not going to step in and go, why aren't you charging them? So yeah, it was hilarious afterwards. He's like, yeah, I kind of fucked up there, didn't I? Yeah, so yeah, as you say, Coach, you do see it. And even you, like, I walked up to you after turn, I think it was the end of turn, the battle round 1, and I said, how come you didn't leave your Gargants on the objectives? And you're like, oh yeah, I didn't score anything that turn. So it was
I just want to smash boats. I just want to smash boats.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care.
Well, that's what your Kraken Eater does, right? He's already got the shipwreck. He just wanted more advanced shipwrecks. He wanted shinier ones.
Just wanted to smash KO.
Yeah, and there was like who is it? Corey Barharts and Tristan Smith were playing each other. So measured teammates, and the salt was being thrown around everywhere in that game. Jeez, it was funny.
Yeah, I got there at the very end. It was on the knife's edge when they were working it all out. And I'm like, sit here quietly. And
it was hilarious to watch. It was good. But yeah, moving on to round 3.
No, excuse me. Clint tells us to move on.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just letting Matt get a roll on, seeing as he's the guest. Yeah. So Matt, what happened in round 3? Who did you play?
So I had Jason, that Tyrrell Black that Coach had round 1. Jonathan.
I can't even remember his name.
No, one of his opponents was Jason.
Next opponent was Jason. So Jonathan, he had the cities list with the 30 Iron Drakes and all the other goods and bits that you already talked about.
Rune Lord, Bridge, 20 Phoenix Guard.
A shooty cities list, yeah.
So I didn't take a photo of the first turn, but I gave him first turn because I had less drops. And after the game, I remember unbinding his bridge, but he reckoned he failed to cast it. But anyway, from my point of view, he casted bridge on I thought he'd rolled a 5, which made it an 8 because he got +3. And Lady Islander rolled a 9 to unbind it, which meant that he wasn't doing much that turn. So he just castled up, moved everything back. Didn't do anything turn 1. So that gave me easy turn 1 to move everything up. I kind of, in this picture, you can see I stuffed up the deployment, the move of my black coach. I sort of had it sideways there. But I should have had it, if I had it diagonally, it scores both, because in focal points, if you have a behemoth within 6 of the objective, you get a bonus point. Black coach is long enough, it can be within 2 objectives. So I kind of stuffed up points-wise there. I only scored the 1 bonus. In the following turn, I just left it and turned it a bit to get the extra bonus points. But yeah, I got everything up, got the unit of 10 Harridans up the middle and charged in. Because this was another 18-inch deployment, if I recall. So Harridans with Spirit Torment, they're 11-inch moves, so I only needed a 7-inch charge. They charged into his little, whatever they are, Iron Breakers or whatever they are.
Yeah, the Iron Breakers, yeah.
They did a fair bit of damage there. Spirit Host also charged up into his Gun Hauler, who he'd made the bait, but I had to kill it anyway. And then I dropped down a few, some Harridans on the left flank there, and Kevin and Mirmorn on the right flank. They all failed their charge in the first round, but I won the double turn. And so, as you can see there, after the end of double turn, like Kurdos had got a 10-inch charge and he ended up in the middle of his Iron Drakes just swinging for the hills and wiping those dudes out. He had a lot of battle shock immunity, which sort of stopped all them running. But, yeah, after my turn 2, it was you could pretty much call the game from there. Like it was... I'd hit his hardest hitting unit, and I'd taken down his Iron Drakes from 30 down to about 8 or something like that. So he had no real shooting left. His Phoenix Guard were just in one big line. You can see in that middle picture from my Harridans on the far left right around to my Spirit Hosts on the right. So they were never really going to pump out a lot of damage just for that fact that they were so spread out. So it kind of came down to, after a couple of turns, he sort of didn't have much left at all. And then he got the bridge off, and it was round turn 3, and we're running out of time, and we're just moving models around at the end pretty much. But, yeah, I think me winning the priority turn 2 is pretty much where the game ended. So I got a really strong win. I think it was 29 points to maybe 7 in the end or something like that. Like it was fairly
decisive.
Yeah, it was unfortunate for him, but yeah, fortunately for me, my army does normally do well against cities armies, just for the fact I've got the underworlds and stuff like that. I can get into them and tie them up.
And he relies mostly on rend as opposed to mortal wounds,
those
you just laugh at.
Yeah, exactly. So, like he was even saying if he had got the bridge off and with his 30 Iron Drakes, he said, I could have wiped out half your army, but he doesn't realise that, yes, they're 3s and 3s or whatever, re-rolling ones, but you're still, out of 60 shots, you're probably only wounding maybe 40, and when I've got a 4-up save, you're only doing 20 damage, so you really got to focus on one unit if you're going to shoot at it with Nighthaunt. So that's where kind of cities aren't as good at Nighthaunt as what they are against other units, other armies. But yeah, so it was good to come from a bye, have a loss turn 1, have a bye turn 2. It was good to get a strong win in round 3.
So you end day 1 as 1 and 2 because your bye is a major win.
Yes, so 2 and 1.
Yeah, sorry, that's I was thinking 1 loss, 2 wins. That's not how we order things here.
Yeah, and mentally I was just 1 and 1 because I'd only played the 2 games. But yeah, as far as points goes, I was 2 and 1.
Take the freebie. All right, what about your game 3, Coach?
I played fellow clubman Craig Anderson. So he was running. First off, love Craig, and I love Craig because he's been running Everchosen ever since I've known him.
Forever.
He's run Everchosen when they had the Everchosen book. So he's been running them OG for some time now. He's run Archeon for some time now. And for the first time ever, I got to play against Dark Prophecy, which is the rule that allows Craig to basically spend a command point, and he rolls a dice under a cup, and he and he alone will know if I win priority or if he wins priority. So I've never played against it. I don't know if you guys have played against Dark Prophecy yet, but it was a really interesting experience.
I played against the first version of it when it was in the Everchosen, like that style of thing when it was in the Everchosen book. I'd also like to comment that Craig's probably still playing his Archeon and Varangard list, from forever ago to get to get his return on investment out of spending so much on Varangard. Like $170 for 3. Like he would have spent so much money on this army, and he's got to keep playing it just to make it worth it. But yeah, no, Dark Prophecy is quite good.
It is. Look, I've played it quite a lot against it, and as good as it is, what they've rolled. Like if
I guessed it every time. I looked at Craig's face and I called it every time.
It's not even that. It's just the way they play. Like if they know they're getting the priority, you watch them, they'll move everything up the board. Like if they know they're losing priority, they hold their army back because they know, I'm not getting the next priority, so I want to negate as much from my opponent as possible. So as good as it is, I think it is Yeah, they do sort of. You sort of do know what they've rolled.
I didn't say it was good. I just said that was my first experience. But it was good, and it was fascinating, and it was awesome to play poker face with him. I looked at Craig every time, and I would just say, after he rolled the dice, he looked at the cup, and I'd say, "You won it. I won it." And every time he's like, "Yeah." Every time.
If it was me, I'd have just said, I'd have just thrown you off every time. Just lied to you.
He might have.
It was good they FAQ'd it too, because it used to. I'm pretty sure you used to be able to play it that you'd spend the command point, you'd roll it, and if you knew you were losing, then you could actually roll for priority. But now it's like once you choose it, you have to take it.
Yeah, and it was great. It was interesting because it was just like you just don't know. You have literally no control. But it was a fascinating game. You know, Craig brought some interesting things to the table. Like, not only was it Archaeans and Varangard, he brought a big unit of 24, 28. I don't know the maths exactly how it works out, but it was a big block of iron golems. The Warcry Warband. I've only ever played against them in like a MSU style, but he literally had a massive block of them, and he used Archaeon to teleport them up in the front and kind of try to seize the middle objective, while his Varangard were kind of coming around the flanks, and then Archaeon come from the front. He also had a unit of Harpies that I said to him that he needed to play more aggressively. I didn't think that he's playing very cagey. But I played KG. You know, I said to you previously in the KO mission that I was super aggressive. I was super cagey here. I avoided combat like the plague. Ended up winning the game. But to Craig's credit as well, it was my game to lose, because, as you mentioned, we were playing focal points, and all behemoth monsters get an additional VP per objective. So straight up, every objective I'm holding, I'm getting, even if I have the center objective and my 2 back objectives, that's 3 additional VP, let alone any of the combinations that you might get to get additional victory points. So it was a super hard battle for Craig. I think I ended up on 35 VP. He was on 20, 25 VP. So clearly the difference was the behemoths. But hey, it was a great game. The Varangard on the charge are brutal. How those horses hit on 3s, wound on 3s, and do 2 damage. They're freaking horses.
No, they're not. They're mutant chaos beasts.
They're a horse. They're a horse. Like, it was just great. It was great to go one-on-one the Kraken Eater into the into Archaeon. I left Archaeon and 3 wounds left, but couldn't quite kill him. Which is pretty good from a Kraken Eater. They're not the biggest damage dealers out there.
Especially when you had to reroll 6s to hit.
We have to reroll
Really
6s
annoying.
to hit.
Yeah, it's annoying.
At least I don't have a lot of activations that come from it. But I was playing super cagey, using the Mega Gargant, like the Kraken Eater, to be going for the middle objective, staying outside of combat, because he put the Iron Golems in the center, but I could still tag it within 6 by being outside of 3. So I just played super cagey and just, tried to either pin them in combat with maybe 1 Gargant on the side. But I was mostly trying to deal with Varangard, just knowing that I take out the Varangard, he can't score. But they're on the charge, they're brutal. They do some really cool stuff. But I did win that one. Great game, lots of fun. Just a really tough one for Craig, to be honest.
That's a good question from Martin in the chat. Not the Sword of Judgment, whatever it's called.
The Slayer of Kings?
That one, thank you. Did you avoid a slayering?
So first off, Mega Gargants can't be Slayer of King. They're very similar to Gotrek. I think it's just D6 mortal wounds, I think, from memory. But no, he didn't get any Slayer of Kings off. So my Kraken Eater, which is what I got into Archaeon, has -1 to hit. So that comes from a command trait. So I was able to reduce his hit rolls quite significantly. But Dogar, the mount, was just ripping a new butthole in my Gargant. That giant monster thing was just kicking my ass. And that's what killed the Gargant. Archaeon did very little.
Fair enough. What about So that's the end of day one, and
That's
so
day one.
you're on. Yeah,
I'm
so you're
on 1 and 2.
And Matt is the inverse on 2 and 1. Fair enough.
Yeah.
And I was
There
on
you go.
nothing.
You got a freebie. got a freebie. But that was good. But I had a really good game. Day one. Day one was awesome. I think it was just hanging out, seeing people. I think for me that was probably the other major victory, was to just catch up with everyone, just have a chat. Just it's been 6 months minimum since I've seen some people, and 9 to 12 months since I've seen others. So that for me was a huge victory.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other victory was that the Mat Tyrrell kebab challenge, he failed. Matt told me that the world's best kebab was in Canberra. While I agree that the bread was delicious, the tabbouleh, the garlic sauce, the tum, the meat was certainly not at the world standard. So Canberra, I'm sorry, you don't have the world's best kebab. You have a good kebab, and I would highly recommend it, but the world's probably not quite there. And I have been asked, and I did actually film my reaction. It's a private little video, and people have asked me, "Am I going to do a kebab meta?" Potentially. I won't say no.
Round 4, day 2.
Mat Tyrrell, you did not send me any photos, so you can tell.
Yeah, no. Those photos are from round 4 that you've just put on round 5. Yeah.
Okay.
Round 4.
This is your round 4. This
is
is
you who stuffed up, not Matt. See how it is.
I don't stuff up.
Yeah, he did. So round 4 was the shit scenario, battle plan, total commitment. And I was matched up against a double Terrorgeist feast day list with a unit of 40 ghouls in King's Ghoul Battalion. So going into day 2, I was very opposite of confident. I was not confident at all. Yes. So anyway, in a setup, because I got so many drops, I knew he outdropped me. I just baited out his drops, waited to see where he put stuff. In deployment, I think that top left picture, there's a bit of a hole near his in the middle there. That's where his Terrorgeist that's now on the right started, and his Terrorgeist that's over on the far left started on the left of the ghouls. Once he'd put that one down, I started setting up my main lines, and that was the 9 Spirit Hosts on the left flank, supported by the Black Coach was next to them, and my General. And by doing that, meant that my Spirit Host would only need a 9-inch charge into his Terrorgeist if he gave me turn 1, and he wanted to give away turn 1, but by me setting up like that, he had to take turn 1 because he didn't want to lose that Terrorgeist first turn. So went on to his first turn. He had some really bad dice rolls. So that Terrorgeist on the far right there, I had a screen of 10 Chainras, and there was 4 Mirmorn behind it. He double piled in that Terrorgeist, and he killed 9 Chainras out of the 10, and he killed the 4. He only killed 2 Mirmorn the first pile in, and killed the other 2 the second pile in. So 440 point model killed 70 points of Mirmorn and didn't even wipe out a unit of 10 Chainras. So he was a little disappointed there, and that Terrorgeist on the far left, Kurdos took the CP in his turn, so he didn't have the extra CP. That Terrorgeist got stuck with a 6-inch charge. He failed it on a 5. So it was left sitting right in front of my big unit of Spirit Hosts for my turn. Everything else was just shuffled around. I think he summoned on 3 horrors on my back objective in the middle there. So yeah, onto my turn. The Black Coach, I leveled him up, and I threw him up the far left because he had 10 ghouls on that objective. And with the Coach, he'd leveled up enough that he could run and charge, and he had the +3 from the pendant. I think he moved like 22 inches up that flank, and I just moved the Spirit Hosts around. Everything else just shuffled around a bit. And then charges, the Spirit Hosts rolled a 4 or a 5. They only needed a 3, but I CP'd it, and they got the 10. I think I got a 12 actually. So I got the big charge, surrounded the Terrorgeist, left him on like 3 wounds after that. And on the far right, I'd moved the 10 Harridans to be outside of his other Terrorgeist. I rolled a 7 for them, and I didn't use the CP to reroll it. So I actually decided to keep them out of combat because it would have meant he had 2 Terrorgeists in combat at once. And when I picked my combat, it would have meant his other one would have got to double pile in. So I just chose to stay out of combat of the one on the right, so he couldn't do anything with it. And I finished off the one on the left with the Spirit Host. The Black Coach cleared off that objective on the far left. And then he won the priority turn 2, moved the ghouls up, attacked the Spirit Host, kept him out of range of everything else, did a fair few wounds. My turn 2, I got all my charges off pretty much and killed his little courtier, which is part of the King School Battalion, which stops them having to take battle shock. And my actual battalion with the Harridans and that, if you're within 6 of them at the start of battle shock phase, you can't use Inspiring Presence. So I hit them pretty hard after I'd killed the courtier, and he took quite a hard, big battle shock. I think he might have had about 6 or 7 left. So kind of from there, his Terrorgeist had charged in to those 10 Harridans, and once again, I think he killed 5 with a... I don't think he double piled in. No, he didn't. He didn't have the CP. He double piled in with the ghouls. But yeah, with the single pile in, he only managed to kill 5 Harridans. So that was the story of his day. He was just rolling terribly bad. And they did a heap of wounds back to him. And in my following turn, had killed him. So both his Terrorgeists were gone by the end of turn 2. And yeah, so from there, like the game just sort of, I just kept racking up the points and moving around the board and just sort of finishing off his army. So yeah, so going another really strong win for the Nighthaunt against a really tough army. I was pretty happy about where I was at, and yeah, I hadn't thought that I'd win that game. I thought I was really not thinking I'd win that with two Terrorgeists coming at you. But yeah, the dice let him down. So yeah, finished round 4. I was 3-1. Yeah, with a good win over a couple of good armies. So yeah.
Cool. What about your round 4, Coach?
Might be my absolute most favorite game in 2020. At this rate, it could be my favorite game in 2021. So I played Hugh Crail, who is known for running Khorne armies, but instead run Beasts of Chaos. And it was a Gave spawn. So it's interesting, actually, because one of the biggest disappointments I had at Everwinter was that round 3, I wasn't actually meant to fight Craig. Originally, I was drawn up against the Squig army. There was a Jaws of Mork army, a gentleman by the name of Cody. And I was really excited to play up against Squigs. I mean, 1, I love Squigs. 2, you can't have a bad game against Squigs. I thought it'd be an interesting matchup. And unfortunately, there was a redraw for whatever reason. So I lost that match with Cody. And then going into game 4, I was actually drawn up against another Slaves to Darkness army, a mostly Khorne, but there was a Zench Sorcerer Lord. So it was basically like lots of knights and lots of Chaos Warriors with, demon princes and stuff. But again, there was another redraw going into round 4, and I ended up getting Hugh. So Hugh was running Gave Spawn, Beasts of Chaos. It was a very, very cool, interesting mix. There was a Gorgon, there was your Bulgors, there was Centaurs, there was Ungors, there was double Brace Shaman, and basically the rules for Gave Spawn is when a hero dies, I think it's on a 2+, it can turn into a Chaos Spawn. So being that he had lots of small little 5-wound heroes, should they die, they were all turning into Chaos Spawns, which not only can do some decent damage, they also tie you up into combat, and they have some nice buff pieces as well. So, and I think he had the Slanesh Battalion, which allowed him to re-roll his charge rolls and run and charge rolls, or just charge rolls if they're within range of a hero, I think it is, an enemy hero. So it was basically going to be a punch on in the middle of the board. Basically, he waited one side, I waited the other side, and we just kind of danced into the middle and just absolutely punched the crap out of each other. And it was just absolutely a lot of fun. I don't know why it's doing that again. But I won that game against Hugh, but it was a good, honest, solid win. The Gargants just had too much speed, too much damage potential. Getting to send the Bullfire Taurus around as well, which was a lot of fun, making people fight last. And I think that's a very interesting way to actually very, very few times will you actually worry about the priority roll, like, happy to give it away or happy to take it. But when that Bullfire Taurus is on the table, you really do have to think about, do you want it or do you want a whole bunch of things to fight last, and what would happen if you got to fight last? But yeah, no, it was great. It was great. It was, my key priority was to take out the Doom Bull and his unit of 6. Bulgors, the big Bulgors. I think that was the key priority. Try to get that Gorgon down to half strength. But the little Beast Lord just came in. This little 5 mil base came in and just absolutely cut sick and did as much damage as the Gorgon did. This little 5 wound dude. Couldn't believe it.
I think that says, unfortunately, more about the Gorgon than it does about the Beast Lord.
But hey, it's not a Cygor. It's not a Cygor. But I was chucking a lot of rocks, trying to get early battle shock in before the terrain piece started expanding its buff range and making the army immune to battle shock. So if I could just chuck rocks, knowing that the Beast of Chaos had really low bravery, and he was being really aggressive with some of his Ungors and his Centigors. So if I could just chip wounds, I could kind of reduce their impact. And knowing that my Gargants were counting as 15 on the objective and most of his units were 10 models, he was basically having to commit 2 units to try to seize an objective. So it was just a good, honest battle in the middle. Lots of fun. His spawns were just rolling. They rolled 2d6 attacks. He was rolling 10s, 11s, and 12s. And the story of my hobby career is always, this never happens. I've been waiting for this to happen. I'm like, yeah, everyone says that to me. Everyone says, it's just never happened before. I've never rolled a double 12.
It's because you coach them so well, right? That's how that works. You coach them to it.
Just I unleash their potential.
Exactly.
It was a really good game. I was actually that was the highlight game for me. And spoiler alert, Hugh was my favorite opponent as well. So I put that down. He was just absolute gentleman. Whether he was winning or whether it was a losing, he was just an absolute gem to play against. So I was really excited to play that game and pull the win out. So.
Well, he's a Beast of Belko, and I don't think I've met a Beast of Belko player that I haven't liked. And I think Hugh's come to every CanCon.
He comes to my events too. Hugh comes to my Sydney GT, so he always travels up. He always plays Corn. It's just
yeah. While I've never played him, and my interactions with him have always been good. So yeah. Round 5, the last round of the day.
So that was fake round 5 of Matt's. Matt, you didn't have photos, so I
did take photos. I don't know what happened. It obviously didn't click or what, but anyway. So I got matched up against Corey Brush from Measured Gaming from Bendigo. He was on 4-0 at the time. There was only 3 players on 4-0, so I don't know why I got matched up against a 4-0 player. But yeah, he had the change host, which is probably one of the lists that I know just Nighthaunt just don't do well against. So I just went super aggressive and tried to get as much Underworld stuff on the board and hit him hard early. I did get a 10-inch charge with the Heralds, which wiped a screen of Brims and only end up managing to kill 1 flamer or 1.5 flamers. So everything else sort of failed. So in his first turn, he just shot everything off. We were playing, what's the blade? Not Blade's Edge.
Forcing the hand.
Forcing the hand. So it's kind of a hard one. I can't really just sit back and wait for him to come to me. So in hindsight, I probably could have played a bit more cagey and just went the the objectives on the flanks and tried to do it that way. But in the end, the points weren't too bad in the end. But yeah, it was his turn 2, and then I gave him priority. His turn 1, and then I gave him the priority in turn 2 because he'd already wiped everything off in his turn 1 that was in range, and I knew he couldn't do anything turn 2. But yeah, it was a non-event really, that game. He won the major. Just he played really well. Hats off to him. And he's a really nice guy. I was just happy to have a bit of fun with him and play the game. I said to him right from the start of the game, I said, "Oh, look, I think you've got this win on the board, so let's just have fun." And so we did. We had fun, and yeah, he's actually, I think that's probably his first event. He's been 5-0. He's always been I don't want to quote, but I think around about a 3-2 player. And I was talking to Joel McGrath after the tournament, and he sort of said, "Yeah, it's good to see, like Brushy, he's come a long way. He's finally got himself a decent army, and he's working out how to play it." So, yeah, hats off to the young guy. He's gone 5-0 at a pretty tough event, actually, like a lot of hard lists. So, he outplayed me, outplayed my army. So, yeah, well done to him.
He's had Zinch for ages too, hasn't he? I remember him having Zinch forever ago, so he's kind of stuck with that, which is good.
Yeah, I think he may have dabbled into a couple others, but yeah, he's finally working them out, I think, and getting them on the board and doing well. So yeah, well done to him. I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. I think he'll do well in the next couple of tournaments.
Yeah. Good on him. Good on him. Now the challenge is to do it without something like Zench. Let's see a 5-0 with Sylvaneth. Go. No.
We want a challenge, not impossibility. Come on.
Yeah. No, but look, anyone who goes 5-0 is it can't just be luck. It can't be the skill. Even the most busted armies do lose. So shout out to a player being able to do really well at a very tough event with some very accomplished players as well. Which kind of leads to my game, which was an accomplished player. And while Matt, you might have been playing Forcing the Hand, I didn't.
I heard about this.
Yeah. So this is where I was playing Forcing the Hand. So I got to the table early and I set up the table. I set up Forcing the Hand, set up all the objectives. Why is my camera doing that? The Forcing the Hand started happening, and then I got challenged. Chris is like, "We're not playing this. We're playing Blade's Edge." Super confident, super looked at me straight in the eye, and I thought, "Oh shit, I must be wrong." So we pulled everything off the table, moved the terrain around because some of the terrain was impeding on the objective, put the objectives down, set up deployment. We'd just finished deployment, and then James Mabry comes up and goes, "So guys, what scenario are we playing?" And Chris goes, "Well, we're playing Blade's Edge." He goes, "Are you sure?" And we both pull up our phones, and right as rain, I was right the first time because I had set up my General's Handbook scenario cards. So I'd put all of just the 5 cards in my little deck, and I could pull them out as I go. And I must have thought I was wrong, and I just took Chris by a grain of salt. But by that stage, our armies were deployed, the objectives were deployed. We were probably already a good half an hour into the game. We hadn't rolled the dice, and we looked at each other and said, "Look, we can either reset up or we just play as is." And we both agreed just to play as is. Other than that, we would have gone 3 turns at best if we had to redeploy, reset up, and it wasn't worth it in our opinion. So we played the Blade's Edge. Really tough game. Chris had double catapults. He had Arcane the Black. He had 2 units of Mortek Guard. Do you have a Harvester? No Harvester. There was no Harvester, but he had a couple of our little support heroes. And man, those catapults when they hit the Gargants were just straight up 5 damage. He had Arcane the Black, and he also had Special K. Do you have Special K? No, he had the Xantos. He had Xantos. He didn't have Special K. He had Xantos. So that was a really interesting battle. I pipped him right at the end. I didn't pip him at the end. I had the lead the whole way. It was getting dicey towards the end, but unfortunately, because of the speed of OBR, I was able to claim enough points up, and I still had I think it took like 2 wounds. The gate breaker was still on the table in turn 5, and I think it come down to the Mortec guard. There was a unit of like 10 Mortec guard or 20 Mortec guard trying to claim 2 objectives to get the lead, and unfortunately just couldn't take the catapults doing their rerolls, just couldn't take out the gate breaker, which meant I think it ended up being like 14-10 or 14-12 in the end.
Yeah, I had a chat to Chris after the game, and he was actually really dirty on himself because he reckoned that if you had played forcing the hand, he probably would have won the game, because Blade's Edge really does benefit your army because you just move up, and because all the objectives are in the middle of the board pretty much, Blade's Edge. You just move up and you've got them all. So, yeah, he's shot himself in the foot there.
No, there's 6 objectives.
But they're all together. They touch each other.
They are all really close.
Yeah.
No, forcing the hand is closer than the way the forcing hand is set up. That's closer than Blade's Edge.
No, you're forcing the hands. Yeah, they're right at the ends. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, the point.
Blade's Edge is all in the center.
2-2-2-2-2-2. It's like that weird Z kind of action.
Yeah, try mapping that out on a 4-foot board.
And the point, and the other fact was that once you get that, you go first and you score all the points. You then just keep burning them, and it's really hard for your opponent to catch up.
Well, no, you burn them if you go second.
Yeah, but if you've gone first and they win the double, and they're shooting themselves in the foot,
which is what happened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then you burn the objective. Yeah, and it makes it harder for them.
And your army, your army thrives on less objectives, so it suits you better as the game goes on. So
I set up forcing the hand.
Yeah, no, that's what I said. I didn't say it was your fault. I said he shot himself in the foot.
Can you imagine if this was reversed though? If Chris had set up forcing the hand and Magro's like, no, Blade's Edge, it's just like a much better scenario for him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I think the point was that we set up. We then redeployed, and the question was, do we then reset up and redeploy and then play 2.5, maybe 3 rounds? No, that was and because we were already 2.5 hours, the round is shorter than normal. By losing that additional time, we barely got to round 5 in this game. And we were like round 4, round 5. Chris and I were just, absolutely just going. I think we did round 4 and round 5 in maybe 7 minutes, just to get through. So it is what it is, but certainly
it was his mistake. So the fact that he lost because of
it's our mistake. It's our mistake. It's our mistake. So when Chris challenged me, we should have looked at it immediately, as opposed to me just going, sure, whatever.
And this is why you read players' packs.
Well, I did. And I pulled out my 5 cards. I only had the 5 cards, and I remember going, I don't have the card for forcing the for Blade's Edge here, because I'd only brought the 5 cards, and I only brought
that should have twigged you. You should have checked then. You should have twigged then. But anyway,
Magro, he was like, "Yes, this is going to be better for me, Blade's Edge. Yeah, let's play that. Yep,
yeah, righto."
I like how you think that. At the end of the day, I barely got my army painted. I can assure you right now, the army was coming regardless. The scenarios did what they did, and I was there to roll dice and have fun at the end of the day. If I wanted to win this tournament, I wouldn't have run Gargants.
I heard from Chris that when he said it was Blade's Edge, you countered with, isn't it shifting objectives? For even less objectives on the board. I had heard that,
2 places of power or whatever.
I wanted to play places of arcane. I wanted to play places of arcane power, so I could then use that rule where a Gargant can change the objective scoring and go, Chris, you're always on 0, and I can only win. So GG.
So what'd you finish on? Magro for the weekend.
I finished on a legitimate 3 wins, Matt. After that 5 minutes of shade you threw at me. So I won 3 of my games legitimately, and I lost 2. So I lost my first 2 games. I then had 3 wins. I didn't do quite well on the secondaries. Some of them were really tough for me to win. Whether it was the matchup, whether it was just the build of my army, I did struggle a little bit with those secondaries. And maybe if I would have gotten those 18 as opposed to the restricted 10, the outcome may have slightly changed. But I think the auxiliaries kind of let me down a little bit. I think I still finished 14th out of 36. So I'm still very happy with that for an army that this is the first tournament I've run with Gargants. The lists had to be submitted pre-FAQ. So I'm very, very lucky that Rocky let us in with the tournament lists. But he also said to us that if GW release the FAQ, you just have to accept it. If it's really bad against you, you've just got to accept it. And I was willing to take that. And if GW didn't release an FAQ on time, he was going to FAQ us. And again, I would be at the mercy of the TO. And if he wanted to straight up deny certain things, I was at his mercy. So very, very fortunate to have run the Gargants, but also very happy to have got 5 additional games and get a bit better of a feel of the list.
Yep. That's fair. What did you finish on, Matt?
I legitimately finished on 3 and 2, and one of my wins, it was a really good win, and it was against someone that smashed Magro in his first game. So probably
I lost in turn 4. I wouldn't call that. I wouldn't call that a shoot.
Smashed.
You lost to Pask. Not that Pask is bad, but for someone who's the mayor.
No, that's what you implied.
Yeah,
that's what you implied. When you say that, like
Pask did really well. Pask did really well, but for the master, I expected better.
Well,
he's calling you out, Martin.
He only finished 2 and 3, I think. So I think you're getting stuck into him.
That was actually really interesting. Not about Pask, but just how many Stonehorn and how many Thundertusk lists there were. There was actually quite a lot of those Beast Claw Raider builds, probably more again than I would have expected at a regular tournament.
Yeah, I think there was 7. Was there 7 lists that were?
There was one dude. Wasn't there one dude that ran 7 Thundertusks?
Yeah, all Thundertusks. Yeah.
Madman.
I'm not sure how well he went, but he had fun, I think.
We're not disking Pask. We love Pask. Well, I love Pask. He's a good man. I'm dissing Matt that he didn't go 5-0 or 4-1, being the master.
But he's already become the master. He can just take the foot off now. That's how it works.
And take fun lists now. I could have took a dirty list, but where's the fun in that? I had fun.
No. So maybe a question for all of us, and Clint, maybe you'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Is hearing about the first tournament back, since COVID. And maybe hearing our feedback and our suggestions, what are some of the lessons that maybe we've learnt in the new world, or maybe some things that we should start thinking about, as our tournament scene kind of kicks back up into gear, or events start getting back into the calendar. Is there any ideas or thoughts that have come into your mind while we've chatted?
Enjoying the dead air. Okay, I'll go.
Well, it was to you, Clint.
I thought you said that you would ask me second, but anyway. No, I misunderstood. What?
Do you want me to talk to you?
Pro. I'm a pro. No, look. So from the outside view, the time thing seemed like, but I understand that there's multiple factors in round times. It could be venue, and Michael didn't know he was going to be the first event back from COVID.
Well,
first 2-day event, etc. Like,
we didn't
there's that sort of stuff.
O'clock. Clint, if that context comes in,
venue didn't open until 10.
Yeah,
but
so it sounds like that's a venue restriction. He's just trying to pack as much hammers into the hours that he got, and that's fair. Like, but the time thing, especially coming back, is big. And the objectives, like I know I'm just touching on stuff that you've already talked about, but literally they're the things that I've picked up on. It's something that we got feedback from for CanCon the first year we did our own objectives, is we had 7 for 6 games, and that wasn't enough. So that we increased that the next time, just to give people more opportunity, because back then we were only picking 1 per game. So, we had 10 across 6 games. It gave you a few up your sleeve. And now with, the picking 2, you definitely want to have twice as many as you need almost, or, like the full 18, just to give certain armies choices, because, there are some armies out there that can only really use a subset of the objectives.
Some are impossible to get for some armies.
Yeah, absolutely.
One other thing that I thought was really helpful was that, again, we talked about the restriction of the timing at the venue. Lunch was included as well. So and we're in an industrial area. Jolt Games is in a very, it's not very close to shops, especially on the weekends. So being able to kind of reduce that and kind of supply lunch on the day meant that we didn't have to go anywhere. It meant that, it was one less thing to worry about. And I know with my event, I've got a little one day coming up next week. That's one way I can reduce the lunch break, is just by supplying lunch or including that in my ticket price.
It's another interesting consideration in COVID as well, doing food. But I imagine that was all handled by the venue and stuff like that. It was part of the deal, or was it? Did he get?
We had Subway day 1,
pizzas, yeah,
and then pizza day 2. I'm for my particular event, I'm doing individual lunch boxes, so people are ordering a burger that comes with chips and a drink, and it's just very individualized. But Canberra, and I think Canberra hasn't really had a lot of COVID issues at the moment. No. It was just your traditional Subway platter, and your pizza boxes, I think, were just like a pizza bite for you and your opponent. So it wasn't even pizza per person; it was a pizza between 2.
Yeah, that's something that's quite you've got to take into account all these COVID safe things now, that stuff that we used to do in tournaments that we're not going to be able to get away with now, or really shouldn't. And that's actually surprising. Sorry, I'm not dissing Michael or saying he did the wrong thing or whatever. It's just, these are just considerations going forward. It's because I know my wife works at a school, and with COVID, kids obviously can't bring in cake. Once upon a time, they would let kids bring in cupcakes for birthdays. Not a thing anymore. Cannot bring unpackaged food, and cannot bring food that's packaged all together. You have to have individual servings and things. So there's those sorts of considerations that I think if you're doing food at events, you kind of have to think about, and providing hand sanitizer if you're not at a store that's doing it, if you're running it at a hall or whatever, making sure you have all these precautions it's an extra layer of thought on top of the event. And
Canberra was it was really interesting, because we spent a bit of time there obviously before the event, went to a few shops and that, and even coming from Albury, you go to Canberra and half the shops didn't even have stickers on the floor, or they didn't even have. It was almost like Canberra was just living a normal life almost. It was something that wasn't even really thought of, if you know what I mean. It was very laid back as far as all the COVID stuff goes.
Yeah, I know from my event next weekend, I've got a COVID marshal. Even though it's one day, I've got a COVID marshal. I've got a QR code that everyone needs to sign in, that I'll get their name, their phone number. So should anyone be positive, I can at least contact everyone and tell them to go get tested. The meals I talked about earlier, one of the things I'll be keeping in mind of is, while people are having lunches, not to congregate in certain areas. And while restrictions where I live are reducing, I certainly don't want to be an event that I have an outbreak, or 2, I think it's just, as you mentioned, just additional things that I need to think about. Maybe hit the tables with Glen 20 between rounds. I don't know. As you said, hand sanitizer. But I think the food's an interesting point, but I think, as you said, some of the things that we did previously, we now can't do, or we shouldn't do at the moment.
Yeah. As far as the tournament goes, like aside from the time and the objectives, which times and venue thing and objectives is obviously a choice that Michael's made, but other than that, it sounds like it ran fairly smoothly, and it was definitely a nice, well-rounded event, which I would expect from Michael, because he's been to so many, and I know that he definitely puts the thought in, the extra thought about his battle plan selection and all that sort of stuff. So I'm unsurprised that the tournament ran so smoothly otherwise. So
when we talk about time, what is an average time for people that don't know? Like what's CanCon, for example, for rounds?
2:45.
So only 50, which is about 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's sort of the standard, because otherwise, if you go to, I looked at 3 hours and it was just it made the day a tad too long. But even if you went like for, first events back or something like that, like, at our first 2-day art print in Queensland, if they did 3 hours for the first round and then 2 hours 45 for the rest.
When you say 2 hours 45, is that from when matchups are revealed, or is that from after that? Like,
generally you do your matchups in the break,
okay.
between rounds, yeah.
So
if you can, yeah.
Yeah,
you want to reduce as much of that as possible. So making sure that people know even game one, and I know this is probably one of the challenges by doing it at a store, is that if they don't open they did open early. So, I appreciate the venue opened a little bit early, but if the store doesn't open till 10, it doesn't mean that we can start rolling dice at 10. People need to get in, unpack their armies, put it on the table. They need to know which tables they're starting on. So any way you can reduce that friction, whether it's putting rounds up in advance, and yes, you might get some drops, but deal with that on the day and let 90% find their tables and set up early, as opposed to drawing it, once registration has happened. Anyway, as Clint mentioned, in the breaks, and I use Facebook a lot, posting up anything they need to know about, whether it's the realm, whether it's the mission, whether it's the draw, anything. I want to get that to them during the break. So by the time their break is over, they know exactly where to take their army to start the game as quick as possible. So
was terrain pre-generated on tables?
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
not
okay.
You didn't have to roll for it, but it was on the
all of the terrain was supplied on the table, so we didn't have to bring any terrain. But from a mysterious landscapes point of view, we still had to roll, arcane, deadly, mystical, that type of stuff.
Okay, that's another thing that you can do. Like, if you've got all the terrain, that's another thing that cuts 5 minutes out of the start of your game as well. Having all those out as well.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing. And sorry, one more thing that Tomo did, which I think is really interesting, that maybe other people want to bring into their packs. Matt, I'm surprised you didn't bring this one up. Is the way that so obviously, traditionally when we start a game, we'd roll the dice to see who takes what side of the table first. But what Matt did was you had a choice. The person who wins the initial roll off could either choose the realm that their army is from, or no realm, or the table side. So if I'm from Shimon, my list is from Shimon, I can either choose that we play in Shimon or no realm, or choose the side of the board and start deploying first. And then the other person obviously gets the other choice.
Interesting.
I thought that worked quite well. A lot of the lists come from Shimon, so that was also very interesting. A lot of lists come from Shimon, at least certainly I played against. So having it gave the other person a choice, whether it was to play realm or choose a side, which it didn't really feel like there was a loser.
Yeah, and the other thing was too, because we were playing both mystical terrain tables, so you were rolling for, you could have had commanding and you could have had arcane, whereas the new GHB actually says you got to roll for one table, not both. But so that made it interesting. Then, like you might have one side of the board that's got commanding and arcane, etc., and then the other side's got shit. But your opponent might have his realm might be he's got the spell that he wants to be using from that realm. He might be from what's the other one? Gur. Is it Gur? If you got monsters, they can for a command point can fight at the top
bracket.
Top bracket. Is it Gur? I don't know.
It sounds like it'd be Gur.
Yeah, I think it is. So a lot of the More Tribes lists were going Gur because they wanted to be able to fight at the top bracket always. Stuff like that. So it was interesting whether you choose. Are you going to take the commanding? Are you going to take arcane, or are you going to take what you've built your army around and go for the realm? Personally, when I would have picked, I said to Michael, do I even have to pick a realm because I don't care much for the realms. And he said, yeah, just pick one. But yeah, I never actually. I think each time I won the roll, I picked sides because I was trying to get arcane or commanding. But yeah, if I had won the roll and had to choose a realm, I would have just said no realm. So
yeah, and that was the option. It was either it wasn't like if it was if it was me versus Matt, it wasn't I choose a realm between Matt and I. It was my realm only, or no realm.
Yeah.
So which was interesting. Which is I liked it. I actually really liked that combination.
The only thing I didn't like about it was that we're talking about time constraints. It's another time. So I had all my realm cards with me because I got the GHB this year with all the cards. So then it meant that I was standing there for 5 minutes reading through the realm the realm command ability, the realm terrain feature, the realm spell, and so you know what I mean. It was another thing that added to the time for me anyway, personally, because I don't.
If it was 2:45, would you feel the same way? If it was 15 extra minutes, would you feel the same way?
Yeah. Look, I've always, I don't know. I've always not been against realms, but I find that they're adding something to the game that's not really needed, especially the terrain. It's really annoying because you've rolled for terrain for the whole board, and then the whole board then has another lot of terrain rules. So you've got double terrain rules on every piece of terrain. I don't know. I'm not against playing it. If people want to play it in their time, that's fine. But for me, it's just another aspect of the game that most people just forget about anyway. I think in nearly every game I did play on the weekend, I don't think anyone used their command ability from the realm.
I did because Shimon gives me +1. Is it +1 to hit on the charge? So I think that worked in my favor. But on the flip side, you've got people like Doom and Darkness and Matt the Wildform Weiss, who at SAGT have just gone no realm, just flat out no realm. There is no realm effects. Obviously, you can take your realm artifact if you want, but otherwise, there's just no impact. So I think you've got, there's no one way to do it. It's just
so how does that work with a cities list where they got to come from a realm?
They can still come from a realm. It's just that there are no realm spells, no realm effects, no realm anything.
There's no realm effect in the game.
Correct, but I can still choose.
Yeah.
Right.
So and that's the only rule that Cities worries about. Obviously we got empowered by the realm, so Cities gets that naturally. So other than that, it just doesn't worry Cities. So
Look, personally, I don't care much for realms. I don't mind how Clint does it with CanCon, where it's just everyone knows it's the same thing, And I think you did it for the whole day, didn't you? The same realm, is that right?
Yeah, when I originally I think at Sydney GT maybe 18, I might have jumped realms every game. I think my last Sydney GT, I just said day 1 is X, day Y is Y. And I kind of reduced the impacts. Clint, you're going to say something?
No, it's all good.
Yeah. So I think you raised an interesting point about jumping between. Yeah,
CanCon was the same the whole way through.
Yeah, and that's good because
your personal narrative was Iran.
Yeah, and you can read up on it before the game. If you're playing realms all the time, I guess it doesn't matter because you get used to it. But those that don't, that's something. It's a lot easier if you just got the one realm. You know what it is for each game.
And maybe that's something. And maybe that's something that, again, as we're all getting used to the game again and getting back into it, maybe it's one way we can simplify it is just choosing a realm for the day or realm for the weekend. And maybe in 6 months' time or 3 months' time, depending again on your community and how active it is, once we've rebuilt that muscle memory and we're sharp again, then maybe it's when we add the more complexity to the game. Or you just create more time to allow it. Or as Clint said, you're putting mysterious landscape terrain already on the table. Being very upfront with the realms or the realm rules in your players pack so people can practice it. So then they make the most of that 2.5, 245 on the day.
And it wasn't that long ago. There was tournaments. There was a couple of tournaments run that didn't have terrain rules either, to simplify it. So maybe we do need to, as you say, look back, simplify things a bit for the first few as people get back into the game. Who knows?
I know Clint and I privately talked about, this feels very much like 2017, 2018, where, it's very much like almost like restart. It's a restart. And, that's why we're starting up with these 20, 40 player events and, building back up to the 200s and the 300s that we aspire to have. Clint doesn't aspire to have 300.
You've plenty of time. Plenty of time to paint terrain, Clint.
Apparently so. Start early.
We probably should call out that the winners were Joel Graham coming first. He was Grizzle Gore Flesh Eater Courts. I know 2018 called and we're very happy with his celebration. We had Corey Brush, I think you just mentioned, was Zench. Dalton Copeland was Dalton.
Oh, he had he was the with Pebbles, the big rock dude he had. And
he had big wog.
Big wire, that's it. So he played Corey, and he spoke to me during the weekend. And he said every time they play at home, it comes down to priority turn 2. I think he said. So it's really a dice off between their two armies.
Peter Atkinson came in 4th. He was running Beastclaw Raiders, Ogres.
He was playing Joel on the final table, so he was playing for first.
And then 5th was Tristan Smith. He was Nurgle.
Yeah, the Blight Sis.
So the entire top 5 was measured.
Top 7.
Yeah,
top 7.
Rohit and then Joel.
I came 8th.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Then Tyson Gleason, another measured boy. So there was a good mix. Measured did have at least 25%, if not more of the.
I think more actually. Yeah.
But to concentrate them at the top, though, that's pretty good effort from the club.
That's what I was going to say. Is the guys play hard, they practice hard, they're very match play focused. They do like to. They do like that, and it's to see people like Rohit, who we don't get to see outside of Victoria very often, do well. As you mentioned Corey Brush, great performance by so many people. 2 players going 5-0.
They had some tough lists. They were all sporting really good lists.
They were there to play hard.
Yeah.
I will say that I think some of the lists that we saw were very much focused towards the players pack, as opposed to much like CanCon, where if you were running this at another match play event that wasn't this particular build, they might take that list. So take that what you will. If you look at the lists, I probably wouldn't pick it up immediately and take it to your local meta. It was certainly optimized for the scenarios. It was optimized for the way Michael was incentivizing certain lists. But nonetheless, some really tough lists, some really tough builds, some really tough opponents. So, shout out for the first 2-dayer that we've seen, and hopefully this kickstarts some awesome 2-dayers. And as we also heard in the chat, there was a Perth 2-dayer as well, Battle Masters. So Australia's competitive scene is kicking back, and it's awesome to see.
Yeah, and technically, Everwinter is still the first one, just based on time zones. So.
Yes.
You weren't incorrect.
But it's awesome that we got it. Matt, you gonna say?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's obviously on the Discord and stuff. There's a lot of lot of jealous people around the world at the moment. A lot of the rest of the world is currently locked up again, so feel bad for them. But yeah, we're finally seeing the light, hopefully.
Yeah, and that doesn't that isn't lost on me that America, England, there are so many other great countries that are watching this show, probably very, very, very envious that they probably haven't been playing Warhammer since the Seraphon book came out, and it wasn't being used because it wasn't FAQ'd. So we haven't seen a lot of Seraphon legitimately on the table on the competitive scene. We haven't seen Lumineth on the scene as well. There was a Lumineth list, by the way, at Everwinter, which was really cool. It was no techless build, but we really haven't seen that, and I think we'll start to see the meta shifting, especially with Broken Realms. But again, very, very happy and lucky to have played in real life as opposed to Tabletop Simulator. But yeah, we are very lucky.
Yep,
absolutely.
Well, I feel like with a little kumbaya moment, and kind of I've run out of eggnog. Like Sam's
I
mentioning,
ran out ages ago.
So do I. Like Sam, people in the chat are saying, they've just gone back into lockdown. So again, my heart truly bleeds for you guys. It's not easy, it's not tough, but hopefully you'll you get some really cool hobby done. And hopefully, when you all come out of lockdown, you've got some awesome painted armies like us, and you just get straight into it, and you just get to roll dice and have fun again. And there was I didn't shake anyone's hand until the very, very, very end, and that was a mistake. That was just a slip. I made sure that I didn't shake anyone's hand. Pre-COVID, I'd give people hugs. We would, but again, that world is coming very soon. Just not soon enough. It will come. It will come. We don't know. Matt, if people want to talk to you more, I think we've kind of gone through Everwinter. It was great. Yeah. We're gonna have some stuff happening in future months. Maybe to bring us home, Matt, what are you most looking forward to in the festive season? Are you going to be taking some time off to paint, to play, to do stuff around the house? Like, what does Matt? What's it look like in your household?
Yeah, actually, we are currently doing a few renovations around the place. So, my holidays will be busy doing work around here, but also plan to record some more battle reports in the next week or two, and do that over the holidays, get a few more. So the YouTube channel's been pretty quiet the last month or so, just with painting, obviously, for this tournament, and just work's been crazy. So I'd like to get some more content out, and then just have a break from work and everything. Really, it'll be good. It's been a hectic year, so I'm just looking forward to having a few weeks off.
And Clint, what's your household going to look like in the next couple of weeks?
Well, I'm running a fun Christmas event at the local store not the weekend coming, the weekend after that. So I'm really looking forward to that. Bribing people with chocolate coins again and all that sort of fun stuff. Throwing candy canes at people. Individually wrapped, of course.
COVID
individually wrapped, all that sort of stuff. Not within 6 feet of them, so I'll just peg them at them. I've run them before. They're always lots of fun. People come in the right spirit and just have fun. And then I think then the weekend after that is a 2-dayer that Simon Hall is running in Brisbane. It's about 30 players. So that's awesome. I'm looking forward to that. My OBR is pretty much done now, so that I'll be taking that. Just got to get some practice in. And then Christmas I don't have the public holidays off, so I'll be working. So I have to save up leave for ETC now. So
So we're going to be seeing competitive Clint at the next tournament. Is that what you're saying?
I believe his name is Cliff. Yeah.
Cliff.
Yeah. When I'm competitive, it's Cliff, because I don't think people want to think of me as a competitive person. I think they just want to attribute that to someone else. So, look, I've got a decent OBR list. I just have to grow as a player into it. So,
practice.
It's just practice. Practice and playing properly rather than building vampirates and just shooting sending shark chariots at people for funsies. So, yeah. that's what my next month or so looks like.
Yeah, I found out recently, aka today, that I've actually got 3 weeks off over Christmas. I work. Work forced. I forgot that work forced us to take 3 weeks off. This holiday.
Terrible.
Well, I did have a trip to America planned, so I had like a month off, meant to be off between June and July, or July and August, I think it was. So I think there's a lot of companies, especially like where I am, they just have so many people with accrued leave of like 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And they've said, hey, mental health, go take some time off, extra time off, aka get it off the balance sheet, but also your mental health. So I've got 3 weeks off. So I think I'm going to try to get some tabletop simulator, maybe some Blood Bowl online, just maybe record some videos and just spend time with the wife and the dog. We've just come back from a week leave. We went up to the beach. And I've got a few video ideas I'd like to put out as well. And I'm going to do a hobby hangout on Boxing Day or Christmas if you are in America or in England or overseas. So I think some more time like that as well, getting some hobby in, especially now that I'm painting my my test model, Daughters of Cain. There's my little jingle. I haven't done that for a while. I just dropped the model. It's over. It's done. But
he promises people that he has painted a witch elf, but unfortunately he just dropped it into his pants. So
no, I dropped it under my chair, and as you know, if you move your chair, you're likely going to break it. So I will just have to do that off camera.
It's that tense moment where you're like, where can I see this model? Yeah. And if you can't see it, it is definitely wedged against the wheel of your chair.
If I can move my feet around and stab myself, I know it's a witch elf. So I might draw this stream to a close, and hopefully you won't see me cry when I break my free witch elf from Games Workshop.
You've just painted.
You've just painted up.
But at least I know the test scheme works. I've realized that. Cool. Matt, people want to find you. Down below, I do have your YouTube link, or if I don't, I will put it in there. So go check out Matt's channel if you'd like to hear Matt's voice, or you like Nighthaunt, or you like both.
Yeah, that's Borderline Gaming on YouTube. You can find me on Facebook as Matthew Tyrrell, and on Twitter as well.
I've truly lost this witch elf. What's that? It's either dog treat or a witch elf. Success. I've got it.
His eyes lit up. It's a dog treat.
No, it's a witch elf. It's a witch elf.
There you go. He has painted. Oh, you're painting up like a drow.
Yeah, I'm painting up a drow elf. So going with the color bronze scheme, that I want to have different hair colors just to differentiate the murder strippers.
The filth.
It's actually my display board. That's why I've actually gone with this, because I've got a really cool display board idea. So that's my driving force for this army, much like the Gargants.
Yeah, I've got a really cool Seraphon display board I'm thinking about doing too.
Does it by any chance hold lots of skinks?
Yeah, and it's got a perfect spot for Croak. And
well, I look forward
cool.
To it after the winter FAQ. Clint.
People can find me on Twitter at Heralds of War. I'm also on Instagram. I've been following tons and tons of hobbyists on Instagram lately. I'm really enjoying just having a feed of awesome painting. I'm Clint.Mallet over on Instagram, but it's pretty much all Warhammer. And you can catch me on Tuesday evenings, Australian time, over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Heralds of War. Just hanging out, doing hobby, chatting about stuff. So
cool. And you know,
I'm everywhere.
If people don't know where I am, then it's a bit worrying. Very worrying. But I did get a nice little message from Spotify wrapping up the year, and it was like 40 episodes over like, was it 10,000 hours or something across 27 countries. So that was really cool. What's not cool is this Logitech camera auto zooming out and driving me insane. Guys, thank you very much. Hopefully we hang out at Christmas or New Year's. I hope you enjoy this episode. Clint, we've got to work out what we're going to talk about in the new year. Maybe it's like a tale of 4 warlords or something. I don't know. We'll work something out for January.
Absolutely.
Matt, it's been a pleasure. Chat, thanks for hanging out with us this long. I hope you had fun, and you know the deal here. I'm going to play this awesome video. All right, guys. Adios.
See ya.
Mate,
Ciao.
how good was that video? Surely it's going to go straight to the pool room. If you enjoyed that video, I would appreciate it if you crush that like button. And if you have an opinion, leave it in the comments section. That lets YouTube know it's a great video and it should share it with other Age of Sigmar players. Cheers to all the bloody legends here on the screen who have financially supported AOS Coach on Patreon on YouTube members. Their contributions have helped me improve the quality, frequency, and the variety of content on this channel. So cheers, guys, you are bloody legends. Until the next video, don't forget to shoot the heroes and have a good one.